No fault of your own, our experienced lawyers can help. Insurance companies act quickly to protect their interests. Let us protect yours.
Robinson LLP. They get tough, you get results. Visit robinsonllp.com for a free consultation.
Sports Radio is back.
McDavid trying to come in with speed. Here he comes. McDavid shoots. Top shot. He scores! The Oilers captain with the overtime winner.
The Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440.
Pretty good contact here as he hits it to deep right, and he's hit it out. Now that's a birthday present. George Springer just gave himself, and the Blue Jays have the early lead.
Presented by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website.
Now slinging it to the end zone. Was it caught? Yes! McLaurin! Touchdown! She told me to walk this way. Told you
Well, a magnificent Monday afternoon. How are you? And welcome to the Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440. Also coming to you live on Oilers Nation YouTube. Of course, some of you may be streaming it. Sports1440.ca. You got the app, which is great. Take it anywhere you want. Virtually no data charges, and lots of you have unlimited data anyway. But get it on Stingray, iHeartRadio, the Radio Player app. If you're a little staticky somewhere where you're at, to get the app, trust me, it'll be crystal clear 100% of the time. As always, our show is brought to you by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website, and all the revenue stays right here in the province of Alberta. And here we are, 9 days away from the start of the I think it's 8 days away from the start of the NHL regular season, because there are actually some games on the Tuesday, the 10th, if I'm not mistaken. So that is good. That is very good. So yes, 3 of them on next Tuesday is when the season officially begins. Oilers season, of course, begins next Wednesday on the road in Vancouver against the Canucks, where they were on Saturday. They went into Calgary on Friday night. Jack Campbell plays very well. Brad Malone, sweet little backhand to win it in overtime for the Edmonton Oilers. They go into Vancouver on Saturday, and hey, 2 guys who are battling for jobs, Adam Ernie, Raphael Lavoie, get goals, but the Oilers lose 5-2, and now they're into Seattle. It's the final week of the preseason. Oilers will play tonight in Seattle, Wednesday at home to the Flames, and Friday at home to the same Kraken. The Oilers obviously made some cuts over the weekend, none of them surprising. The, I guess, surprising, disappointing news was the announcement that Brandon Sutter is retiring from the NHL. He played on Saturday. He met with the coaching staff and managers on Sunday and just felt like, he's still got some health concerns from long COVID. And so he elected to retire. And we wish him, obviously, the best. I have to think at least it's a little bit easier mentally to accept that your career is over when you gave it your best. He trained all summer, and unfortunately, long COVID can be extremely challenging. All right, just his breaths and everything he talked about with his immune system and stuff like that. So we wish him and his family the best. Number one, he can be a normal husband and dad. That was something that for a long time he couldn't even do that. He said he was breathing literally like this all the time. Shortness of breath for like a year. That'd be brutal. So happy that, he's able to function in a normal life. Just can't play in the NHL because obviously that's a next level of breathing and cardio and everything like that. So all that means now is the Oilers and the 12th forward spot. To me, this is the final week. And you've got some guys in the mix. Obviously, Lane Peterson is there, Raphael Lavoie, Adam Ernie, Brad Malone, James Hamlin. Heck, maybe even Seth Griffith. Probably a long shot, but I'll say this about Seth Griffith. The guy knows how to produce points. Now, I don't think he's necessarily fit to be in the role that they're going to be looking for on the fourth line. So you have big wingers and Lavoie and Ernie. And I want to start the show today on Monday. Please don't be the person who texts in like, Raphael Lavoie is getting played with a bunch of terrible players. How many NHL games does Raphael Lavoie have? How many? Oh, that's right. 0. Okay? He's played in the AHL. Good for him. He's not an NHL player. Don't insult guys who've been NHL players by saying they're plugs. It's got to be the most ignorant comment an average fan could make. Okay? A plug would be me when it comes to hockey. I don't feel I'm a plug in real life, but in hockey, sure, I would be considered a plug compared to NHL guys. If Raphael Lavoie had to go to camp with me, yeah, sure. Then you could say he's a plug. But give me a break. Adam Ernie's played 330 NHL games. Now, he's not an elite scorer, but that's 330 games more than Raphael Lavoie's ever played. Heck, James Hamlin's played more NHL games than Raphael Lavoie. I don't get where this entitlement comes from. Well, Raphael Lavoie is not getting a fair chance. What the hell are you talking about? He's playing with guys that he would play with if he was in the NHL. It's a fact, right? Stop asking him to play a game with McDavid and Draisaitl. Why? What is that going to prove? Honestly, what's it going to prove? Do you think Raphael Lavoie has 0 NHL games, and because he scores once or twice in a preseason game with McDavid, Jay Woodcroft's going to be saying, well, geez, guess we're going to take Zach Hyman and Dustin and Connor Brown off of our top 6 so we can put Raphael Lavoie there because he scored in a preseason game. That's not how it works. It makes no sense, and don't waste time. Why do it? The Oilers are here to win. That's their job this year. The top 6 guys have played with the top 6 guys. Because guess what? That's what's going to happen in the regular season. Now, injuries occur, or maybe after 20 games, Dylan Holloway's lighting it up. Then maybe he'll get into the top 6. Great. But Dylan Holloway, who's been getting lots of minutes and has played very well, in my opinion, right? Second-year guy. Raphael Lavoie has 0 NHL games. This thought process that somehow he's just getting completely looked over is ridiculous. I think it's great that him and Ernie are on the same line because let's call a spade here. There's only one spot available, and those are 2 guys battling for it. So they're in the Brad Malone's in the lineup. James Hamlin's in the lineup. They're all in the lineup tonight. I don't think that's a coincidence. You put those guys in, they all know. They're not idiots. Look at the depth chart. They know what's happening. So it's great. It's fun. But please stop with he's getting no chance. There's no reason to play him with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. None. To this point, Raphael Lavoie has proven nothing that states he's a for sure NHL player. He's got potential. Great. There's lots of players with potential that were unable for a variety of different reasons to stick in the NHL. Adam Ernie, he found a way to play there over 300 games. Now, he might not play another NHL game. I have no idea. But he's played 300 more than Raphael Lavoie at this point. So I wouldn't call him a plug. And that Raphael Lavoie, because he was a second-round pick 4 years ago, was suddenly, the greatest prospect the Oilers have had here. And he has to get a chance to play with McDavid and Draisaitl. Doesn't make any sense to me at all. So, also on the show today, we're going to talk a little MLB playoffs. The Jays, they start tomorrow against Minnesota Twins. And, hey, the Twins had fewer wins than the Jays in the regular season. Now, they have home field advantage. All 3 games will be in Minnesota starting tomorrow. Jays haven't announced their start. I got to think, Connor Halley, that it's going to be Gausman. Is it not? Like, I don't see any reason why. Now, I'd have to look back. Maybe rest might be the only reason, but I got to think Kevin Gausman's the starter, no?
I mean, he would be the guy I'd be comfortable with them going with to start things off. Just a guy who, is going to give you a quality effort. Not so many up and downs like we've seen some other starters in the Jays rotation. Looked into it, Gregor. The Jays 2-1 this year in Minnesota. So if they can duplicate that, should be a good series. But I cannot wait for playoff baseball. It's unbelievable.
I love playoff baseball. Every at bat matters. It's great, especially now that they've sped up the game. It's going to be even better. Can't wait to see the playoffs with the pitch clock and everything else. So that'll be fun. Another weekend in the National Football League. And Jets fans put a little scare into the Chiefs. Mr. Wilson, not bad performance. And hey, what about Miami? Ooh. Some people wanted to anoint them the Super Bowl champions last weekend at this time. because they crushed Denver, scored 70 points. Well, Buffalo returned the favor, put up 48 on the Dolphins. And so a little bit of a flex by the Bills to say, hey, wait a sec. We're still in the AFC East. We're still pretty good. The Cincinnati Bengals offense is absolutely putrid. I don't know how else to explain it. You got Joe Burrow. You got two really good receivers. You got a decent tight end. You got a good running back, and they can't do anything. Cons. Like it is shocking to, and I get that Joe Burrow, you know what, maybe he's a little bit rusty, but still, like it is amazing to me how bad they look. Like Tennessee dominated them.
Yeah, I mean, and I will say, I do think Tennessee is a good team. I think they're very well coached.
Yeah, but don't you, like Cincinnati, don't you, at the start of the season, do you think Cincinnati was going to be a team that would get embarrassed by Tennessee?
No, they're terrible. I mean, embarrassed by Cleveland as well, right? And the win against the Rams was not that impressive by any means at home on Monday night. No, Joe Burrow has not looked good. And if that injury is as bad and making him play this way, maybe he shouldn't be playing. Maybe you should give him a week off to try to rest up and heal, because he's out there looking terrible. QBR this year, 33. His quarterback rating, 69.1. Like he does not look like the same player. And I know last year he started off slow as well, but he kind of found his groove. There was signs by week 3 that he was turning it around. It hasn't come this week or this year. So I don't know what the problem is with Joe Burrow, if that knee injury is really hampering him this much, but he's been brutal and he's killing me in fantasy on top of that, Gregor. So might have to make a move here. Might have to make a move from Joe Burrow.
Ooh. Tough one.
Yeah, that has been very tough.
Well, I need some points from the Seattle offense tonight, specifically Metcalf and the third, as I like to call him, running back. So between the two of them, can they combine for 23 points in a PPR league? I would hope so. So see what happens. The lineup tonight for the Oilers, a game, by the way, that you can watch on Oilers Plus. Now, I haven't looked to see if Seattle is picking this up and if it's available on the NHL Center Ice package. I haven't looked yet, so I don't know, but maybe we'll check out to see if it's on Center Ice or not. But it will be on Oilers Plus for those that are interested in watching. Jack Campbell will get the start in goal tonight, and Campbell was excellent. He was outstanding in Calgary. That's a good sign for Oilers fans. Kevin Woodley will join us today because we will talk about Jack Campbell. Also, we're going to talk about Stuart Skinner. Woodley's got a lot of numbers when it comes to goalies in year number 2. Stuart Skinner, of course, Rookie of the Year finalist last year. How do goalies on average fare in year number 2? Because teams now have an extensive video library to know tendencies. So does Stuart Skinner, though, right? He knows more about shooters around the league, so that helps him. But it also helps the shooters. What do the numbers say? Woodley will be by to talk about that. Also, considering, the waiver wire and everything leading up in a week's time, there's some goalies that will be available. The Tampa Bay Lightning need a goalie. It's obviously Vasilevsky will be out 2 months. Who are the best options? We already saw Columbus claim Spencer Martin. Well, Woodley believes that Spencer Martin's probably would have been like the 4th or 5th best option. So Tampa Bay is going to get an option. We'll see who they like and when those options will be placed on waivers. So we'll talk to Woodley about that. Also on the show today, we are going to hear from Scott Miller, talk a little MLB playoffs, Andi Petrillo. Now, am I missing something? Is Herdman not supposed to be the coach? Who gets hired as a coach but then doesn't coach? What the hell's going on? I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something, but I can't recall that ever happening. Seems very odd. Also, is Christine Sinclair retiring? Touch on that. We will hear from Speck and the McNamara talk a little NFL. Also, actor Thomas Ian Nicholas will join us, of course, from Rookie of the Year. Was also in American Pie. As a musician, big sports fan. So we'll talk to him about all of that. The Rookie of the Year class. If you're a young kid, Rookie of the Year is a great movie. Great movie. Con's like, that's right in your wheelhouse, was it not?
Absolutely loved it. One of my favorite movies as a kid. There was a really good run for 5 years, I think, where we had like Rookie of the Year, Mighty Ducks, Sandlot, Little Giants, pretty much any movie or any sport you want to talk about. Big Green for soccer. There was a good Disney type movie made. And yeah, that was one of my favorites. I always thought maybe I could break my arm and start throwing heat for the Edmonton Trappers or something. But I'm looking forward to this one. And then American Pie, Gregor, like that's a classic for a certain generation.
Oh, are you kidding me? Whew. He was Kevin Myers was the role that he played in American Pie, classic role. So Thomas, Ian, Nicholas will join us coming up here in about 7 minutes time. As always, you can get involved. You can text us in our Jiffy Lube inbox. 833-401-1440. It's also the phone number. So either one you like. You can email us if you want to go. Gregor at sports1440.ca. Connor, 2 N's, 2 O's. At sports1440.ca. As he likes to say, no one with a Connor spells her name with an E. So. Hey, Gregor. So with Lavoie, you're saying there's no reason to play him on the top line. Surely it's not the case. Does he have to? No. It'd be beneficial as he can do with elite talent, even just for a period. His future is with his team. The top 2 lines is the ultimate goal. Alex. Hey, Alex. I will strongly disagree with you in thinking. So name these guys, like people who think Raphael Lavoie, like did Anton Lander score over a point a game in the minors? Did Tyler Benson? Where people say, man, these guys got to be top 6. No, there's lots of guys who score big numbers in the American League who are never going to be in that role in the NHL. Ever. Now, Raphael Lavoie might get into that role. And you know what? If all season he plays well, then next year you want to give him some preseason games there? Sure. No problem. But why now? What does that benefit? For one period. What is one period going to show you anything? Like, I really don't understand what you think that one period's going to do. If anything, it might put too much pressure on him. He's got to like, oh my God, I got to get the puck to these guys. He's never going to make any plays. So I don't see the real benefit, to be honest. And I can give you a laundry list of players who in their first training camp, as a pro where they were on the cusp of making the team, weren't just like, oh, let's play with our top guys. Is Tampa Bay putting their guys with Kucherov and Stamkos and Point in the preseason? Is Colorado? Like, honestly, show me the other teams that are doing this. Why? Why are they doing it? To me, you're sending mixed messages to the player because you've had a conversation with Raphael Lavoie. He's not dumb. He knows where his spot on the team is. So you have to play this way. Guess what? When you play with Connor McDavid, you're going to have to play the game a different way. So now you're going to confuse him. And let's put you out for a period. We've been asking you to want to play maybe a little bit more robust, a little bit more dump and chase. Well, now you're going to play with skilled guys. It's a totally different game. How does that benefit the player? Honestly, I don't see how it does. So I will agree to disagree on that one. Hey, Greg's really enjoyed you and Sarah Valley getting into this morning on the rundown. To quote you, love it. You know, it's a fun little debate. We, if you missed it, we're just talking about Frank feels the American League should be completely revamped. And you know what? They don't care about junior hockey teams. Young guys should be in the American League at 18, 19, and 20. And I strongly disagree with that. I don't agree with rushing young players. And if suddenly you make the American League very young, guess what? Well, now they're even less prepared to come to the NHL, where it's all men. Like Struddy and many other NHL players have told me, the jump from junior to the AHL was harder than the jump from the AHL to the NHL. Because in the AHL, you got accustomed to playing against men. Strong, smart, dedicated, committed, disciplined. If you have a really young league in the American League, guess what? You're not going to have that. So, and it stemmed from the conversation about Shane Wright. Like, I don't understand why Shane Wright got the exception that he's allowed to play in the American League this year. Right? I don't really understand it. What has he done in junior that is so much better than many? Go look at Jordan Eberle's junior numbers. And he's just one example. I can give you tons of examples. Leon Draisaitl. Right? Leon Draisaitl at 19 went back to junior. You saw him, Oiler fans. He wasn't ready for the NHL. That extra time in junior, did it hurt him? No, it benefited him. Then the next year he came in, pretty good player. So, yeah, I really don't understand where that comes from. Hey, Greg's, don't sell yourself short. You're a hell of a plug on the radio, too. Wow. Hey, it's probably true. Quick break. We will return with Thomas Ian Nicholas.
There's 2 seasons in Alberta, winter and construction. During these days of traffic barricades,
Your choice for all your auto, residential, and commercial glass. Call 310 Glass or book now at crystalglass.ca.
Sports radio is back. The Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440.
Presented by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website.
Welcome back to the Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440, brought to you by PlayAlberta.ca. That song, the new single, Tomorrow's Gonna Hurt, coming off the seventh album of our next guest, who is fittingly our big guest of the day today, brought to you by Spruce Grove Saints. Go to sprucegrovesaints.ca. You can get tickets for the Saints. It's been a really competitive start to the AJHL season in the North Division, and great AJHL hockey. Check it out at sprucegrovesaints.ca. We are joined by an artist. He's a movie star, a TV star, and for Connor Halley and many others, he was in your wheelhouse for sports movies. And then maybe if you were a teenager, young adult, in the, of course, American Pie franchise when he played Kevin Myers, of course, was also in Rookie of the Year. And we are joined by Thomas Ian Nicholas. Thomas, welcome to the show. How you doing, man?
Hey, man. Good. Glad to be here.
Hey, I appreciate you coming on. So album number 7, how's obviously the musical career is going pretty well for you. How'd you kind of transition from acting to music, or were you always maybe musician first, actor? Like, which one, if you could only do one, which one would you do?
I'm going to answer both because I've been doing both for about 24 years.
Okay.
So, the new album comes out May 17th of next year. The first single, October 19th. I got to say, I appreciate you playing it on the air, but you cut it right before the chorus. That's like essentially making me feel like Nadia in the scene with Jason Biggs and Shannon Elizabeth. He gets it twice. She gets it no times. We got no chorus.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? We'll end the segment with the chorus. How about that?
Okay, good. I don't want to give listeners blue balls, okay?
Yeah. No, that's fair. Hey, nobody wants that, man. That's not good at all. Now, you've played like over 1,000 concerts in 12 different countries for the last 15 years. I've always watched concerts. I've enjoyed them. And I feel like sporting events, you play a game and it's live and it's like, what a rush. But there's something about a concert that's like, because in a sporting event, sometimes, you're on the field, then you get a little bit of break. When you're in a concert, sometimes you're up there 2 hours straight. Can you talk about the rush from being on stage and how it differs and must differ vastly from when you're filming, because you're never filming usually with a live audience?
Yeah. And in fact, I'll even bring this around to a sports related story. I was just in Nashville for a sports convention. All my friends, when I say all my friends, I mean like the entire cast of The Sandlot was also at the convention. So they all came to my show.
Yeah.
I was playing at the Tin Roof on Broadway in Nashville. I had 2 days, 3-hour sets each day.
Wow.
Plus I was doing the convention in the daytime. So basically I don't ever sleep when I'm on the road. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And in fact, my buddy, Victor and Shane, who played Timmy and Tommy respectively in the movie, came up and we jammed a Green Day song together.
Whew. So it's funny because Rookie of the Year is a very different type of movie, obviously, than the American Pies. Which one, like, people relate to it at especially a different age very closely, but is there one character? Because honestly, I remember Rookie of the Year, and that's most sports people's like dream, that somehow, some way they get to play professional sports, because it's incredibly hard to do. For you, when you were in that movie and maybe watching it, was that a dream of yours? Like, were you a kid who was like, one day I want to be an athlete?
I wasn't. I mean, similar to Henry, I grew up with a single mom. Okay. But unlike Henry's mom, my mom wasn't a pitcher, floating it on a softball team. She was my mom, and she was also in the business. She was a casting director, and she still is an actress. Okay. And so, yeah, my focus has always been more on the arts. And to answer your previous question, the difference between a live show and sort of, filming is you get multiple takes and you get the best edit put together. It's more like being in the studio when I'm cutting the album, where I can pick the best of every moment to make the perfect take, versus in a live show, If you mess up, that's it. You keep going forward. The mistake lives. So, even though you try to get like the most fun stuff, like especially in Underdeveloped, which you can see now streaming on Tubi, the pilot's on Freevee and Prime, but the whole season 1 is on Tubi. And, we may have picked the best moments, but we also look like we're having a lot of fun, which we were.
So tell us a little bit about Underdeveloped. Right. It's also, I think, on Amazon Freeves and Amazon Prime. It's with Tom Arnold, of course. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it's a mockumentary similar to The Office, a workplace comedy, but it's failed producers forced to work together at a studio. You don't have to understand how films are made to understand, this job or this show. It's more about like all the things that could go wrong at work. Basically, all these characters almost get or are going to be fired almost every episode, and it's watching them squirm their way out of it. And it's dealing with a lot of things that are unfortunately in the workplace, like favoritism, inequality of pay, racism, but we make fun of it all. So if you're dealing with this stuff at work, I apologize. If you need a release to laugh about, our own drama in our real lives, then you can get a kick out of watching the show.
Well, and Tommy C. and Nicholas joins us on the show right now. Thomas, when you mentioned, I apologize, but I would think, though, if people are going through it at work, they might actually relate to it, and it probably comes from a humor side, so it might actually make them be able to handle it a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all, in our lives, and I try this because I've got 2 kids, so, there are fun moments, and then there are moments where you get stressed out about, like, the smallest little thing, and then, 10 minutes later, you're like, wait, that's actually pretty funny. So I think finding the humor in things can help us, laugh while it's happening in our lives, because, honestly, if we don't have any control of it, what else are we going to do, right?
Oh, 100%. Now, we got a lot of texts coming in. I do want to ask you about Rookie of the Year, and what do you remember about and working with John Candy?
John Candy's role in the film wasn't in the original script. So they never shot that in Chicago. And I had no idea that we were going to have an announcer, let alone the John Candy in the film. So they filmed all his stuff on the studio lot like 3 months later.
Okay.
And so the film came out, and then I ended up doing a PSA with John Candy. So that was the first time that I met him, was after the film was already released. And I have to tell you, he was the nicest, most down-to-earth person ever. We ended up hanging out at his recording studio after the PSA for like a few hours. My mom and him just talking, and I was playing video games with his son.
So for you in your career, and you mentioned your mom was in the industry a lot, so I don't know if it was easier or if there was less wow for you, but as you're working your way up, and hey, and we're obviously in Canada right now, you work with some of the Canadian legends. John Candy, Eugene Levy's one of the funniest human beings I've ever met, man. Like Schitt's Creek is still one of the hilarious, SCTV, obviously American Pie. But was there an actor that when you got to meet them the first few times that you were just like, oh my goodness, this is unreal?
Yeah, for me, it was going head to head with Mickey Rourke in my last film that I starred in and produced, that Lionsgate put into theaters, at least theatrically here in the States.
That's Adverse.
That's Adverse. And so I remember the very first time that I was filming a scene with Mickey Rourke, his assistant was like, "Don't talk to him, don't look at him," and he came on set, and so I was doing the scene with him, and I hadn't even met him. We finished the scene, and we got kind of went off like dramatic improv, and the scene kind of tapered off. Finally, the director, my business partner, Brian A. Metcalf, same guy from Underdeveloped, he yells cut. So Mickey looks at me and he goes, "Hey, I'm Mickey." And I'm like, oh man, I must have passed the Mickey Rourke litmus test,
So now why did she say don't talk to him? Is that because he doesn't like that? He just wants to come in and make it more real because you don't know each other?
I don't know. Maybe he was afraid that when he arrived on set, he would get taken out of his character if crew members asked to take photos with him or whatever. Who knows what he's experienced, and no judgment on wanting that for his craft, because obviously he's an incredible actor. And you don't know where someone's coming from. So I wasn't judging that. That just was my experience, where I of course respected that direction. and but then also gained his respect after we did our first take together.
Thomas, I was reading up a bio on yours, and this is the description they gave as the front man, of course, for the Thomas Nicholas Band. As a hybrid of Dave Grohl meets Bruce Springsteen, and his live performance is so much fun to watch, and people always come back to see another concert. Well, how do you take that? Like Dave, like those are two pretty big legends when it comes to music. How do you take that, and how would you describe yourself on stage?
I mean, I'm a huge fan of both of those artists, and in fact, I've got dibs on the Bruce Springsteen biopic. And I asked Bruce in 2006, face to face. He didn't say no, so I'm going to take that as a yes. When I asked him for his blessing to portray him in a movie one day. And I actually recorded my last album at Dave Grohl's Studio 606. Though I have yet to meet Dave, I did play his guitar on the entire record. I picked up a guitar to like test the amp, and I asked the engineer, I was like, "Oh, whose guitar is this?" He goes, "Oh, it's one of Dave's." I'm like, "Should I put it back?" No. Dave gave you the shirt off his back. Go for it. So I recorded the whole album on that guitar.
Now, you've collaborated, as we were joined by Thomas Ian Nicholas. You've collaborated with a lot of different musicians, a lot of different genres, the Plain White Tees, Early November, Ace Enders, Matthew Kennedy, etc. Is there somebody, like if you got to pick anybody, is there one musician you'd want to collaborate with?
Dave Grohl. I mean, hands down. I mean, that would be, what would be incredible is if somehow, because I've got Taylor Carroll, the drummer from Lit, producing and mixing my current album. And he's the one behind the new single that we'll get to get our rocks off the chorus at the end of this interview, as you promised.
Yeah, so we will. Connor's gonna have it set right up.
Perfect. So I think it would be amazing, which I'm not gonna ask because I mean, how could I ask Dave Grohl to collaborate on my album when we still haven't met yet?
Well, if you don't shoot your shot, man, how do you know?
But you got to at least meet a person first. You can't just go through management. Like, hey, I'm a huge fan. Can we write a song together? Like the vibe's got to be there, Right.
Yeah. Well, you can't just show up at his concert or something. Like, is there I don't know the rules on how you start collaborations. Like, is showing up unannounced at a concert, like, is that a faux pas, or would someone look at that and say, hey, you know what? I like your style.
Well, I mean, I know everyone in his camp, and I know a few of the guys in the band. I've met a few of them. I remember when they did, before Taylor was gone, they did like a pre-concert for a tour where they played at a 600 cap room about like here in Los Angeles. So I went to it, and I remember there was a moment where Dave said, "Hey, is anyone here for the first time seeing the Foo Fighters?" And I'm in like the pit. All the VIPs are like in the back. And I'm like, no, I'm in the pit. This is my first concert. So I, like a dumbass, raise my hand, and he points right at me and he goes, "You." And I'm like, oh shoot, this is not a good idea. I should have kept my mouth shut. Should have kept my arm down. He goes, "I can't even see who you are, but you picked the right concert to come to." And I'm like, thank God he didn't make me right then. That would not be the way I want my first introduction to go with Dave.
Well, I could say, hey, you know what? You made a really good impression, Dave. I didn't know what to expect, but you know what? You really surprised me. So sure, well, that might be a way to do it. Now, Tom, going back to your album, and really more so your recent TV series with Underdeveloped. If we go through it, you talked a little bit earlier about it with, it's not like The Office, but it's a similar situation like that. And I want to ask you, as somebody who, like, there's reboots that happen all the time. So I'm curious, like, if they did a reboot of American Pie, because there's talk right now about a reboot of The Office. And let's say they came to you now and said, hey, we want to do a reboot of American Pie. Can you do it? Like, where do you feel on reboots? And does it depend on like the series or the movie and maybe where you're at in life? Like, would a reboot for American Pie interest you at all?
Well, I mean, to identify exactly what a reboot is when they remake it with all new cast and don't involve any of the original. So they're in fact already developing that at Universal, but it's for their home video department. Everyone got confused because people hear reboot and they think like, they're going to revamp it, but it's not a sequel. It's not with the original cast. And then they got confused because it said Universal 1440, which is their home video department, not the theatrical one. So this will just be like the 6th offshoot of American Pie as a franchise. they are interested in doing a fifth American Pie with the original cast. They just haven't come to terms with negotiation with the creator, which they have to do before it gets to us. Once they get to us, we're all going to be like, yeah, let's go have some fun.
What would Kevin Myers be like today?
I have no idea. I'm going to leave that to Adam Hers because, I don't think I want my real life to intersect with Kevin Meyer. I don't think that really makes much sense. What, Kevin quit his life as an architect and suddenly he's in a rock band? No, no one would believe that.
No, they wouldn't believe that. That's totally fair. So before I let you go, Connors, are we ready? Because we don't want you to leave you with blue balls before we end the interview. So here we go. And then we're going to I want to get your thoughts after we get to the chorus.
Okay.
Right now, it's gonna be a late night, good time, cloud nine, bad sign, running from my real life, just running from my real life. I should go home, cause I know where this goes, but I'll stay for one more. Here we go. Tomorrow's gonna hurt.
All right.
There we go.
Yeah, hey. You didn't oversell that. I like it. So I want to ask, as a musician, and you do all this work, you collaborate is every time you hear your song still cool? Or are you like a perfectionist and after you've heard it so many times, you're like, oh, okay, I need a new one? How does it work?
Man, I don't listen. There's sort of this cycle that happens when you first record a new song or a new album where you spend so much time listening to it, fixing all the mistakes or doing whatever you want to do to it. And then, so you'll listen to that song like 100 times.
Yeah.
And then after that, I won't ever put it on again. I'll play it live.
Yeah.
And all that. But yeah, there's sort of like a cycle, at least for me as a creator. So you spend so much time listening to it incessantly that there's not like a time later where I'm like, I'm going to kick on. I like the same thing with my movies. Like, I don't like just kick on an old movie. Like, boy, I want to just relive the nostalgia from 24 years ago. Play. I'm always just like focused on what I'm doing next, which is, like obviously the new TV show. And there's a bunch of other projects that we have in the works right now that I can't talk about yet. Cause obviously SAG is still on strike.
Right.
Underdeveloped got a waiver, so I can obviously talk about that.
Now, what about with your kids? Have you shown them, like, do they like to see dad as a young actor?
Well, first of all, my son is in Underdeveloped. He plays Tom Arnold's son in episode 2.
Okay.
And if you saw M. Night's last film, not Knock at the Cabin, but the one before that, Old, on the beach.
Yeah.
My son is the main kid in that M. Night movie.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
So you
got him in the industry. So does he critique you in Rookie of the Year yet? Well, Dad, I'm not, what were you doing here?
No, he and my daughter, so my son's almost 12. My daughter is 7. They've both seen the film. And then what's very cute is when I go out of town on tour for like the weekend, when my daughter misses me, she watches one of my movies, which
makes sense.
Just the cutest thing ever.
Yeah, no. Now, one last one for you, and I apologize if you've been asked this question before, but we read a lot of challenges about child actors and how it's really difficult, and a lot of them don't come out and maintain success, and a lot of them struggle with it. It seems like that's not the case with you. How are you able to go through the childhood acting career and then continue on successfully, and then of course branch out into music as well?
For me, I give a lot of kudos to my mom. She is a kind of like the rock in my life and has always been supportive, and has kind of like led me down the right path. I think when I was a kid, she gave me what I like to call pseudo freedom. She gave me just enough freedom to like make mistakes and learn from it, but not too much freedom that I ruined my life over it.
Makes sense. So when you make a mistake, you can have the 3s and 4s out of 10s, but not the 9 and 10s out of 10s.
Well, she by giving me that pseudo freedom, she opened up communication, which is what I hope to do, with my kids, that, when they are going through that adolescence, that true adolescence where you're faced with those decisions, that they feel comfortable enough to say, hey, this is what I'm going through. This is what I saw. This is kind of what I did and how and then it's like, we can talk about it. I think communication's the key. It's when you don't want to talk to your parents, you don't want to admit anything that you've done, that you go off and make even worse decisions. So I think it's just about having that support and that openness, that like sort of tough love, but also just the idea of love.
Well said, Thomas, and continued success. Congratulations on Underdeveloped. And I really look forward to down the road when we see the collaboration of Nicholas and Grohl.
That would be amazing. From your mouth to God's ears, my friend. Thank you for having me on the show.
I appreciate it. There's Thomas Ian Nicholas. Quite the successful career, man, from Rookie of the Year, obviously, to American Pie's got 7 albums. Now his most recent TV show, Underdeveloped. It's on Tubi, Amazon Free. You can get it anywhere you like online as well. Underdeveloped. And you heard the premise of the show, kind of humorous. So give it a run. It was amazing to me. I'm doing that interview with him. Of course, as I'm watching him, we're in our StreamYard on Orders Nation YouTube, and I'm looking at him, and it's like I'm talking to Kevin Myers, because that's what I relate to him for me, right? Like, obviously, I remember Rookie of the Year, but I more so remember him as Kevin Meyer in American Pie. Like, I love that whole series. It was great, and it's interesting. Like, you could see it right there. It's too funny. So thanks to Brad for setting that up. We'll come back. Bronte will join us on the Jason Gregor Show on Edmonton Sports Leader, Sports 1440.
Trevor. Z.
Portions of this hour brought to you by Cantor. They've continued developing tools and are excited to announce their newest design and battery-powered nut runners. 4 models from 500 to 3,000 foot-pounds with more on the way. Learn more at cantor.com.
Sports Radio is back. The Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440.
Presented by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website.
We continue on Monday afternoon. Jason Gregor Show alongside Connor Halley on Sports 1440 and Orders Nation YouTube. Guys, pretty sweet that you can get a guest like that. Who lined that one up? Curious from Doug. Well, that is Brad Slater, our executive producer. So good on Slates. All right, we'd like to be a sports show with some entertainment mixed in. I think most of you, of course, watched Rookie of the Year, American Pie. Maybe have listened to the Thomas Nicholas Band. Watching the new show. So kind of neat. Sports and entertainment, they intertwine sometimes. I like it. Let's get now to the oil report brought to you by Volvo of Edmonton. If you're a first responder, medical worker, teacher, military veteran, you all qualify for $1,000 off your vehicle right now at volvoedmonton.com as we welcome in Robin Brownlee, longtime beat reporter for the Edmonton Oilers. And rumors are down to the final week of preseason. And you've got Lavoie and Ernie on the same line with James Hamlin. Everybody knows that there's one forward spot. It's seemingly up for grabs right now. Lavoie, Ernie, Hamlin, I guess, in a sense in there. Brad Malone, also Lane Peterson. And, hey, Lavoie and Ernie both scored last game. So, you know, that internal competition, I love the fact that they're on the same line tonight. Malone's in the game. They're all in the game except Peterson. And it's like, hey, they will know, and they'll kind of have to match how the other guy's playing if they want to keep doing something to get noticed.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I found it interesting, too. Jay Woodcroft said today, talking about Lavoie, he's had some good moments, and he's had some learning moments. So, I mean, that's an honest assessment. And what he needs tonight, if he wants to lock up a spot, is more of those good moments. He's not going to know everything, and he's not going to be a complete player at this point. But if he wants that spot at this point in his career, go out there and get after it. I mean, I like that game in Vancouver. The shot he took is what we've talked about and heard about. You know, put the puck in the net, pulled it between the circles there and let it hum. And you know, he's got a shot, but so do the other guys. I mean, I'm not a big Adam Ernie fan only because we've sort of seen what he is at the NHL level, and there's nothing wrong with that. He's an NHL player. Lavoie has not proven he is that yet. Hamlin's been kind of handy to have around. So, yeah, I mean, go into this game, outshine the other guys, answer some of the questions in the coach's mind with your performance tonight. That's going to go a long way because we're down to brass tacks, as the old saying goes.
You know, I look at, you know, Brandon Sutter, and, you know, I thought Brandon Sutter played fine. He didn't look out of place, but I remember talking to him at the start of training camp, and he said the thing about long COVID was it was as much if he had the shortness of breath and everything, it really impacted his immune system. And so, you know, he played his 3 games. You know, he played 3 of the first 5 games, which is exactly, they had a plan. He was going to play 3 of the first 5. He played 3 of the first 5, and clearly he knows how his body would feel. And, you know, him retiring was for health reasons, according to Ken Holland from Spec. And, you know what, it obviously comes down to just there's something that his body, you know what, his immune system, he's going to get worn down. He just doesn't want to do it. It's too risky for him. So I'm happy that he was able to give it a go, and that now he can just return to normal life, be a, you know, loving dad, husband. But it is, you know, it opens up a spot, because I think the way he played, he was probably trending to be the guy right there. He hadn't done anything that stood out like, wow, he's the best, but he definitely didn't do anything to say he's the worst. So who do you put now? If you had to put a pecking order right now, who would you say is the leader to get that 12th forward spot?
Well, you know what? I'm a bit of a fan of Lavoie. I want to see him here. I don't think that he's going to be exposed playing in this lineup. If you can't play him, you know, in that bottom 6 and specifically on the 4th line with that top end, I can't think of too many teams that could shelter a kid better than this. You're not throwing him into the deep end. And I heard you talking earlier, well, you got to play him in the top 6. No, you don't. That's the last thing you need to do. If he's going to be a top 6 player, that could happen 2 or 3 years down the road, sure. But start here. Make the team show you can be an NHL player. And when you're big and you're strong and you can shoot the puck like he does, I think he's got the ingredients to be that NHL player. Is he far enough ahead of Ernie, of the other guys? I don't know. I think we know what Ernie is, like I said. So do you want a sure thing now, or do you want to grab the kid and make sure nobody gets their mitts on him? If I'm making the calls, and I'm not, I'm looking at Lavoie. He's my guy right now, unless he completely, what's the bed in this game tonight.
Yeah. And that's interesting. I don't have a front runner. I don't think there's an obvious front runner in my eyes right now. And if Lavoie makes it, there is the caveat that Derek Ryan, they have to be comfortable with him playing center, right? That's the one thing and that's out of Lavoie's control, right? Yeah. So it's funny. So I'm sure Raphael Lavoie, as well as he's playing, he's kind of saying, okay, Derek, have a really good game tonight playing center. You know what I mean? Like, that's going to help him. That's just a fact.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? It's interesting. We don't know the dynamic, when the players talk, and I'm sure there's some back and forth there, I don't know where he fits best. Does Jay Woodcroft know where Lavoie fits best? I mean, here's another guy in Ryan. This is an NHL player every day of the week, 24/7. He's going to factor into it. So, I don't know. The guy I don't want to see get away, and I keep going back to it because I feel strongly about it, because we've seen it before. There's a happy medium between rushing a player into minutes he's not ready for. We've seen it with a lot of defensemen over the years, and not giving a guy a chance and burying him so you never get anything out of the kid. I think Raphael Lavoie is the happy medium between, do we know for sure he's ready? Well, he's looked pretty good. What our eyes tell us, he looks pretty good. Let's put him down the lineup and protect him where he's got some cover and see what we've got, rather than, hey, anybody want to crack at this kid? Because I'm not sure he'll go to another team. I think sometimes we assume everybody gets a glance at one player who's here and they've got to have him, and often he clears. But why take that chance with Lavoie right now? Are you throwing him in the deep end without any kind of cover if he makes this team on the fourth line? I don't think so. What's the downside to it? That would be my question.
No, that's fair. I don't know if I've seen enough to say for sure Lavoie is an NHL player, and I can't say that I've seen enough to say that he isn't, right? And that's the challenge of it for sure. So Lavoie on paper interests you. And the reason why I think it's smart to play him in the bottom 6, get him comfortable in the bottom 6, because you have to play a different style in the bottom 6. That's just a fact. You have to. Yeah. So for people who want to say, give him a period, give him a game, now you're confusing him. Now you're going to say, now you're going to suddenly play a different style to play with McDavid or Draisaitl for one game, and then the next game go back. Why would you? Now you're putting him in a position to fail. Makes no sense to me.
Yeah, send a clear message and stick with that message for more than 5 minutes. And that's what playing him further down the lineup does. Once he feels like he belongs in the National Hockey League, then you've got a shot of him doing something down the road, higher up the lineup. But the expectations, we don't know what makes Lavoie tick. I don't know the kid. I'm not around there. But at this stage in his career, well, if I'm in the top 6, there's a whole slate of expectations that come with playing on those first 2 lines, and they're legit. These are men playing hockey. They're making good money. And if you're in the top 6, you better show in a big hurry why you're playing in the top 6. There's no such pressure. You can't be a dog, but there's no such pressure in that bottom group of 3. You get a chance to play hockey, get your feet wet, and see where it goes after that.
Rubes, we will watch tonight with interest and all week long as one spot up for grabs, and there's 3, maybe 4, 5 guys in the mix for that job. Brad Malone's the one name that I wouldn't count out. I would not count out Brad Malone. The coach knows his game inside and out. Right? It's just a fact. I think we lost Rubes there. So there you go. That was the Oil Report brought to you by Volvo of Edmonton. It's true on Brad Malone. The coach knows him, and the coach knows exactly what he's going to get from Brad Malone every night. Physical player, center iceman, kill penalties. I do want to get to this quick text before we go to break. Hey, guys, I love you're back on the air. I don't always agree with your take on Lavoie. The Flames did the same thing with Brett Hull. They tried to cram him into the bottom 6. When he failed, they traded him to St. Louis, a team that recognized him as a top 6 guy. Preseason's a time for experimenting. We know that from Paul. Well, Paul, I will say this, though. Your memory is a little bit foggy. Brett Hull had scored 50 goals in 65 AHL games in 1987. The next season, he's in Calgary. He had 26 goals in 52 games. And by the way, it wasn't on the power play. He was second on their team in 5-on-5 goals. He wasn't playing. They had Joe Nieuwendyk, Hakan Lube, Mike Bullard, Joe Mullen, Brett Hull. Right? He wasn't crammed in the bottom 6 all the time. He might have played a few games in there, but he played the majority of his time in the top 6. And he had 26 goals in 52 games when they traded him. Now, did they give up on him a little bit earlier? Did they maybe not like his attitude? Totally fair. But this guy was producing. And no offense to Raphael Lavoie, he ain't Brett Hull. Okay? He's not close to Brett Hull. There's very few guys like Brett Hull's a 700 goal scorer in the National Hockey League. Calgary made a bad move trading him. Fair. But it wasn't because he played him in the bottom 6 all the time. The guy had 26 goals in 52 games before they traded him. It's pretty good. Quick break. Let's get to Connor Halley and a Sports 1440 update brought to you by BIE Engineering, specializing in all your residential, commercial, and industrial structural engineering needs. Go to BIEENG.com.
This is a Sports 1440 update.
Game day is the Oilers in Seattle taking on the Kraken as the preseason rolls on. This one gets going at 8 o'clock. Elsewhere around the NHL's preseason, the Sens are in Pittsburgh. Flyers host the Bruins. Islanders up against the Devils. The Blue Jackets hosting St. Louis. Montreal travels to Toronto, and the Jets in Calgary taking on the Flames. The Anaheim Ducks have signed restricted free agent Trevor Zegras to a 3-year, $17.25 million contract extension. Zegras completed his 3-year entry-level contract last season, recording a career-high 23 goals and 65 points. Week 4 in the NFL wraps up tonight in Seattle as the Seahawks host the Giants. Kickoff 6:15. You can join me at the Windermere Canadian Brewhouse for your chance to qualify for a trip or two to the Super Bowl in Las Vegas. Tough news for the Bills as they will lose starting cornerback Tre'Davious White with a torn Achilles for the remainder of the season. And sad news is one of the best running backs ever to play in the CFL, George Reed, passed away at the age of 83. The CFL Hall of Famer played 13 years with the Rough Riders and was named MVP in the club's first Grey Cup win in 1966. His rushing touchdown record of 134 still stands today. Coming up in hour 2 of this show, we'll be joined by our co-host Terry Ryan. We'll talk some baseball with Scott Miller of SiriusXM and hear another edition of Ryan's Rant. I'm Connor Halley. This has been a Sports 1440 update.
This is Sports 1440. This is the Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440. Favorite us right now.
Powered by PlayAlberta.ca. If you gamble, use your game sense. Learn more at gamesense.ab.ca.
Everyone loves a comeback. Hi, I'm Colin from Cantork. The flame of Edmonton sports fever burns bright. Cantork proudly continues our partnership with Jason Gregor, excited to re-enter the arena of sports radio on Sports 1440.
Portions of this hour brought to you by Japa Machinery. Japa is digging deep on their 50-year history of supporting Alberta's construction industry with their line of special edition Blackout excavators. Visit japamachinery.com for all the details.
Sports radio is back. The Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440.
Presented by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website.
I am a traveler of both time and space.
It's after 3 o'clock. Jason Gregor, Connor Halley with you on Sports 1440, presented by PlayAlberta.ca. Get in the game, baby. Get the boost bets. Try it out. Small. $5, $10. Just to see. Adds a little spice, a little entertainment to it. Good luck. PlayAlberta.ca. I'm Jason Gregor, and we welcome in our regular Monday co-host. He's a two-time author, former 8th overall pick of the Montreal Canadiens. I shouldn't say former. That means he's dead. He was an 8th overall pick of the Montreal Canadiens, and now also stars in season 2 of Shoresy. It debuted on Friday. Terry Ryan joins us. TR, how are you?
Good to be back. I'm all right. Had a great weekend. How about you?
I'm good. Yeah. Did you get through the watch party?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It was entertaining to say the least. Yeah, I was pretty proud of what we've done. Jared in particular, putting it all together, but it was fun to watch.
Now, you had seen it before, but now did you guys binge watch the entire one or just watch an episode on Friday? What'd you do?
Yeah, well, I'd seen them, but I watched them myself on my phone, so it wasn't quite. So seeing it, I got a big 85-inch TV here, so we watched it on there, which packed a lot more punch. And, and yeah, I mean, watching it for myself, actually, you know, it's the first time watching it like anybody else, putting it together and, you know, watching it the linear storyline. But after that, you know, you can always pick up tips on what we can do better and what I can do differently as an actor. And there's some things I saw. So I'm as much of a critic as, I guess, a critic.
Okay. So now when you watch it, Terry, because if you look back at Terry Ryan, the rookie in his first year as a pro, and then Terry Ryan in his second year as a pro, I would assume he was better. So was Hitch a better actor in season 2 than he was in season 1?
I don't know. I got some help, and I really paid attention. I read a lot, and I got some help with. I got some acting lessons. So
okay.
I say that I can just show it up and say I got acting lessons.
Yeah. Well, of course.
I mean, there's one way. You know, I find a lot of things I do. Like I said the other day when I told you I went in and did a stunt. The day before that, I played a guy in a bar. I'm often just playing that character for that day, so I'm delivering it like a stereotype of a particular, you know, if I'm a drunk in a bar, then I'll be a drunk in a bar. Like, you know, there's an idea for that people have formed in their head. You can have a little bit of fun with the wardrobe, whatever, but you're not really giving much personality other than you got to be a drunk in a bar. So do the stereotypical things that a drunk in the bar does. But the more, you know, I've never been involved with a character like this. And even though it's a Newfoundlander and there's a level of fun to it because, you know, I'm imitating a friend and friends and, you know, I grew up around it and you know, there's a lot of ways to have fun with it. I'm still playing Ted Hitchcock, and each phrase, each word, each scene for sure, I'm adding some depth to that character. So I find there's a lot of, you know, you got to really know the guy inside and out, and you got to know the situation inside and out. And, you know, Ted is close to me. I have a lot in common with him, but Ted Hitchcock isn't necessarily Terry Ryan. And to find out where one ends and the other begins, especially where it's so similar, is a little bit of a task, to be honest.
I don't know. That would make sense. Yeah. And I like how you say, you know, like add some depth to the character. And I don't think that's any different than professional athletes. You got to add a little depth to what you are as a player especially, if you're a young player, right? And I want to get to Raphael Lavoie because he's a hot topic today. He scored a goal on Saturday in Calgary, in Vancouver, and you know what? He scored. He's got a shot. Everybody kind of knew he had a shot, but he's playing in a different role than what he has before. Usually he's been a top 6 forward or a top line guy on most teams that he's played on, right? Last year in the American League, he was their best forward. He's on the power play. He's getting, he's playing against the top players. He's getting a lot of minutes. You get to the NHL, that's not happening, right? They got McDavid and Draisaitl. They're a high-scoring team. They don't need another top 6 winger. They need a guy who can contribute in limited minutes, Terry, and that's very hard because it's hard to sit for a long time when you're not used to it, right? Everybody gets in the flow of things. The more you do it, the better you feel. So when you look at Lavoie, and Jay Woodcroft said, hey, he's done some good things, and then he's had some learning moments. Talk about how, because you were that guy, you're a 50-goal scorer. You're always a top-line player. Then you get to the NHL, and you're like, damn, I got to roughhouse guys, or not that you didn't do that before. I got to try to contribute in 10 minutes of ice time. It's way harder to do. What's the number one thing that Lavoie has to prepare himself for and set up to have success as a bottom 6 winger when he's not getting a lot of ice time?
Yeah, and it's that age-old question, right? Like, do you play him up or do you send him down? Which is going to benefit him more? This is a tough one, and I've been paying attention all the way over here in Newfoundland to the Edmonton Oilers camp for obvious reasons. But I not just that I'm on this show, I identify a lot with that guy, and I find him a curious case because I just looked again, 25 goals in 60 games in the A, so he's pretty good down there. I mean, those are great numbers. Now, can he? There's guys, I'll use your nephew as an example, Noah. Noah was a big scorer in junior, if I'm not mistaken. I think he scored a lot, over a point a game one year and way over a point a game another year. So he comes in, I think maybe 4th round was Noah, a little bit lower of a pick, but still had those expectations. Now, I watched Toronto the other night, and he's very tenacious. He's penalty kill. He's doing everything that you would want Lavoie to do this season if that's expected of him. Now, can he do that? I don't know. You guys are eyes on. That's for Woodcroft. But if he can, and if he's fine with that, I'm leaning towards him. I mean, I don't know. He's a first rounder. He seems to be comfortable out there. Oh, sorry, second rounder. Seems to be comfortable out there. Did real well. There's a spot for somebody. I can give you a reason or two not to take the others. I don't know. If everybody, I just don't see it with him. So the only thing is that stunting of development. And if not, I mean, I don't know. He's the leading candidate in my mind.
Yeah, like Adam Ernie, and I could see people say, hey, Adam Ernie's played in the league a long time. He is what he is. He's not going to change. He's not suddenly going to be anything different. And I think that's fair. Now, Lane Peterson's 26. He's not that old. He's a center iceman. He skates. He's got some offensive flair a little bit. And, he was a goal-a-game guy at the American League, for goodness sake. Now, granted, in 18 games, but still. And, you wonder, hey, maybe. Brad Malone's the interesting one to me, Terry, because I'm sure you can attest to this. The one thing most coaches want from a bottom 6 player is they want to know when they put his name on the score sheet, they know what to expect from that player. Yeah. And Brad Malone, that's the one advantage that Malone has, I think, over all of the other guys. Peterson, Woodcroft's never coached him. He's never coached Ernie, and he really hasn't. He coached Lavoie, a year and a half ago, and he was banged up the one year and didn't really play very much. So I don't think he has that one, right? And so Brad Malone is what he is. Physical, kill penalties, and that's the difference. He kills penalties. Lavoie doesn't, Terry. So I wonder how much that's a negative against him because you're in the bottom 6 role. We know the Oilers power play takes most of the power play, as it should. It's the best one ever. So Lavoie is going to get some 5-on-5 time, but those games where there's penalties, he's not involved. And I wonder how much that hurts him, if any.
So he hasn't been killing penalties, then in exhibition, then he won't. Okay, there you go. So that was my next question. Has he been killing penalties? Well, that's huge, and they know what they're getting out of Malone. I just think from a youth perspective and from an offensive upside, not that you're looking for offense, but I mean, it is hockey. You're out there less. You want to be able to score. But for Lavoie, this is the thing. For me, and I know I said that there was parallels. There were, but I was going out, really, when I was getting not much time, it really meant 1 or 2 shifts a game, and there was probably a tough guy I kind of felt left out to the Wolves. I don't, again, not a complaint that happened a long time ago. Maybe it's justified. Maybe I wasn't a good enough skater. Who knows? We can break that down all day. All I'm saying is that I think it was a little different because I was kind of going to get 1 or 2 shifts. I think he's going to play a little bit. And, again, I'm leaning if I was there, and I'm not. And, I had more to do with the team, and I don't. But I'm just saying right now from this perspective, I'm leaning with Lavoie. But I do see if there's a number 2, for me, again, I'm thinking Malone for the same reasons as you did. I mean, he's reliable. You know exactly what you're getting. You've got years of resume and experience and knowledge. It's osmosis. You don't even need to think with this guy. And penalty killing, when you've got not only a pretty good offensive team, one of the best in recent memory ever on record, then that's important that we have someone to kill penalties because those guys do it as well. We're going to need somebody down here to be able to kill it once in a while. And if you don't do that and you're our bottom six, that might hurt you.
The internal competition, I'm always fascinated by it because I look at how the lineup goes tonight, and you've got Malone in. They're all in except Peterson. Now, Peterson's played a lot of games, so it's not like, he's getting shunned by any stretch, but they're not all in. But Ernie and Lavoie, who are both wingers, play the opposite side. And if they're going to make it, it means Derek Ryan has to play center. Well, Derek Ryan's playing center tonight. And from a player's mentality, Terry, when you were battling for a spot, the guys know, right? Like, they're not idiots. They know exactly what the depth chart is, right? Like, they all study the depth chart on their own team. Like, they're fans in that regard. Is it better, do you think, that Lavoie and Ernie are on the same line and they're battling because maybe you feed off each other emotion potentially? Yeah, and they're on the same playing field that way, at least, right? You're out there against the same players for the most part. You're getting the same minutes. You're not comparing this game to the other game. And we started against the fourth line, and you didn't, and I didn't get this time. So I like it, and I always did from that perspective. If you're going to put me, again, and it's healthy. I mean, one of my best friends in the world is Aaron Asham, and each time I went to pro camp with him, I mean, just look at the style of players we are, our age, what they needed. We were kind of going for the same role. But now, not everybody, I'm not saying because I did, I mean, not everybody looks at it like that. But I used to enjoy that. From not only because I thought I'd have the one-up, I just mean we're going to be doing it. If Ash goes out there and gets 5 goals and I get 2, and he gets 3 good fights and I don't have any, and he finishes every hit and blocks some shots, well, he deserves it. And I have the peace of mind to know that we were out there in the same games, and we were doing the same thing. Here you go, right? But again, not everybody looks at it the same way. That's the way I look at it. Yeah, that makes sense. Terry Ryan alongside Jason Gregor on the Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440. Coming up, hey, it's playoff, baby. So you got preseason, and there's guys fighting for jobs, and now you have playoffs that begins across the board in MLB tomorrow, including the Toronto Blue Jays on the road taking on the Minnesota Twins. We will set up that series as well as the other 3 with Scott Miller from Sirius XM. Then we have Ryan's Rant with Terry Ryan, followed by Andi Petrillo. Kevin Woodley's going to join us in the 4 o'clock hour today. Lots of goaltending talk, including some numbers that Woodley has crunched in regards to Stu Skinner in second year. And Jack Campbell, a really good first performance by Jack Campbell on Friday. He'll go again tonight in goal for the Oilers. What to expect, all that coming up on the Jason Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca, live from the E-Well studio, EWEL.ca. They are more than premium quality electrical products. If you're ready to elevate your projects, contact them. They'll help you out, EWEL.ca.
Are you ready to light up your game like Edmonton lights up the ice? Then choose E-Well. Electrical Wholesalers Edmonton Limited offers lightning fast service. Just like your favorite forward, they deliver your electrical supplies in record time. Plus winning quality, they only stock the best. And don't forget about their all-star support. When it comes to customer service, they're the playmakers. So don't sit in the dark. Make the power play and visit E-Well today. Online at EWEL.ca, where excellence in electrical meets the heart of hockey. First Round is Edmonton's NFL headquarters. Get in the game and watch NFL football this season at First Round, and you'll have a chance to win a trip to your favorite NFL city to watch a game in person next season. And the hits keep on coming with food and drink specials, big screen TVs, and more. Catch the Pro Bowl brunch every Sunday, Monday Night Football, and head in Thursdays for your chance to win an NFL replica helmet. NFL at First Round. Burgers, beer, sports. Downtown West Edmonton Mall and at 1strnd.ca.
Come into Jiffy Lube for a Pennzoil Platinum full synthetic oil change and receive a $20 digital gift card to one of over 30 merchants, such as Cineplex or Bass Pro Shops. For a location near you, visit jiffylubeservice.ca. Jiffy Lube, keeping you moving.
A solid financial plan is made up of more than just investments. Investments are an important part, but you need a more comprehensive approach. Vincent Pearson at Weird Pearson Akel & Associates Private Wealth Management understands that. He can help build a plan that includes retirement, estate planning, personal insurance, tax strategies, and yes,
results.
Portions of this hour are brought to you by Roger Weir and his team at Weir, Pearson, Akel and Associates Private Wealth Management, helping business owners and professionals build, protect, and enjoy their wealth. Earn more now and call Roger and his team at 988-4119.
Sports Radio is back. The Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440.
Presented by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website.
Back to the wind. There's a world outside the darkened door where blues won't haunt you anymore.
Welcome back. Monday edition of the Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440, presented by PlayAlberta.ca. Jason Gregor alongside Terry Ryan. And whoo, baby, October. We are into the month of October, and it is one of the greatest sporting months of the year because you have NHL, NBA beginning. You're in NFL. You got CFL. And, of course, you have MLB playoffs. As we get to our MLB report, brought to you by Legacy Heating and Cooling, home of the no payments, no interest for 1 year on your furnace. Be warm all winter. Get one now at legacyheating.ca. And, of course, the Major League Baseball playoffs begin tomorrow. Scott Miller from Sirius XM joins us to discuss all of them. Scotty, how you doing, my man?
Real good. How are you guys? Happy day. Happy opening playoff week. Can't wait for all four. Tomorrow's great. I mean, it starts with a bang, 4 games.
Oh, it's fun. So let's start with the Jays and the Twins. Of course, in Canada, there's lots of Jays fans. Toronto has been inconsistent, would probably be a fair, accurate portrayal. They might be better off starting on the road because for whatever reason, they're not that good at home. It's kind of an oddity. But when you look at it from a pitching standpoint, and if you look at the 3 starters that are going to go for each team or expected starters, Scott, do you see an obvious advantage for either team?
No, I mean, it's interesting. The Twins, of course, are going to start with a bunch of baggage. It's unbelievable that they've lost 18 consecutive playoff games. I mean, they've got an enormous monkey to get off their back. And I know the guys today, Carlos Correa and, Byron Buxton and these guys, it's not like they've lost all 18 games, but that's a long haul of many years. They're going to feel that pressure because the city feels that. And Rocco Baldelli the manager is yet to win a playoff game. I believe he's 0-5. So that's the first thing that the Twins have to get settled right away is they need to come out and play free and easy and not be tight, not be thinking about, any kind of that baggage. Gausman, I like Gausman in game 1. An interesting matchup, right? The Twins got Pablo Lopez from Miami last year over the winter in the Luis Arraez trade, and Arraez wins the batting title in the National League. I mean, talk about a deal that helped both teams, right? Arraez really helped the Marlins get to the playoffs in the National League, and Pablo Lopez is the game 1 starter for the Twins. So, him and Gausman will be solid. Chris Bassett, Sonny Gray in game 2. It depends on which Bassett shows up and which Jose Barrios shows up, which, by the way, ex-Twin. It'll be interesting to see Barrios' emotional. I know it's been a few years since he's pitched for the Twins, but there was a time he called Target Field home. I may like the Twins pitching a little bit. I think they're lined up pretty well. But Barrios also could come up with a gem and when it's his day, if they get that far.
Yeah. Well, I'll say that I like the best of 3 format better than the single game elimination. Scott, where do you like the excitement of one, or do you think this is better for baseball?
Yeah, I worry that baseball's playoffs get a little bit too long. I mean, the best of 3 in the wild card certainly is more fair. I mean, I liked the old format when there were 2 wild card teams and it was just the winner advance. It was basically a play-in game. I liked it in that because right away the playoffs started essentially with a game 7 type of situation. But that said, hey, I love baseball. I love it played in any way, shape, or form. And 2 out of 3 is more fair, no doubt about it. I also think I like that there's no travel day. I mean, we'll see if it changes a few years down the road, but the best 2 of 3, potential for all 3 games in one site. That's a pretty good smorgasbord of baseball for both fans in those cities that get to host the games. And for those of us, whether you're in the visiting cities like Toronto, where you got to watch your team play on the road, or even, beyond, if you don't have a dog in the fight, it's pretty cool to watch, 4 Surreys that could go 3 games in 3 days.
So now let's look at the other series. Tampa Bay, it's funny. The Jays, I think it's an advantage in a way to play Minnesota, even though Tampa Bay is banged up, because there are 10 fewer wins from Minnesota to Tampa Bay.
Agreed.
And, Houston and Texas battle it out. What do you make? Texas has obviously kind of been playing for their lives here for the last week, where Tampa Bay was kind of stuck in the number, 4 slot here for a while. Do you buy into that, Scott? Do you think there's anything to be said about having to scratch and claw your way in? Does that benefit the Rangers at all?
I mean, it can benefit certain teams because it in the sense of momentum, I mean, you look at teams that get hot at the right time. With the extra round of playoffs, so much of it is who gets hot at the right time.
Yes.
But that said, Texas is kind of going the other way, because all they needed to do was win yesterday in Seattle. It was all up to them. And they won the division, and they had the week off, and they didn't have to play till Saturday, and they couldn't get it done. So that's kind of the opposite of momentum. And beyond that, Texas's pitching has been questionable all year, especially the bullpen. Bruce Bochy and pitching coach Mike Maddox have had to, it seems like the whole year has been 2 weeks of bullpen disaster. And Bochy and Maddox have to patch and glue things together. And then they get it stabilized for a bit. Then it's 2 weeks of bullpen disaster, and then it repeats itself. And I think Texas having to play the extra games with a volatile bullpen, I don't like that combination for the Rangers. I think they, it's already volatile enough. And now if you make those guys throw all these extra pitches over all these extra games, I think that could be trouble.
Yeah, that's fair. Scott Miller joins us talking MLB playoffs. Scott, we go over to the NL side of things, and you've got Arizona and Milwaukee, and the Brew Crew. I like them a lot. Arizona, it's kind of been funny. The NL has got a few kind of gutsy teams. Not a lot of people at the start of the year thought Miami was going to be a playoff team, and they're in. And Arizona maybe a little bit of a surprise as well. Between Miami and Arizona, which one do you give a better chance to win their series?
I'm going to say Arizona, because I think Milwaukee's a little more vulnerable than Philadelphia. The Phillies they're dangerous, man. I mean, Zach Wheeler is involved in Cy Young, even though he's not going to win it. A lot of people think he should get some Cy Young votes. Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler are veterans capable of leading that Phillies team deep. And then the offense they have, it's been a different team since Trey Turner woke up after a horrific start.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't want to underrate Milwaukee, because I think the Brewers, if they score, they're going to be really dangerous. But their offense is lacking at times. And Brent Woodruff, I mean, one of their 3 starters, you look at Corbin Burns, Freddie Peralta, Brent Woodruff. That's a formidable trio that can help the Brewers win any short series. But Woodruff isn't going to pitch in this week because he's got a shoulder capsule that's sore. Theoretically, if they beat Arizona in advance, Woodruff would pitch against the Dodgers in the next round. But that could be problematic for Milwaukee as well. So that's why I like Arizona's chances over Milwaukee better than I like Miami's chances over Philadelphia.
Scott, looking at kind of the playoff format, I don't know if you've dove deep in this or not, but the American League teams for the first 2, like Texas is starting at 3 p.m. Eastern. Yep. Tampa Bay and Toronto, they're starting at I guess 3:38 Minnesota time. on both of their games. Do you see, and then the NL games are late at night. Do you see any advantage at all? I don't know if you crunch numbers at all. Like, do the mid-afternoon starts, do they benefit any teams? Like, is there some team that should be annoyed that they're playing in the afternoon, or conversely, maybe not getting to play in the afternoon? Is the NL are the evening games and the AL are the afternoon games?
Yeah, I don't think overall. I mean, Tampa Bay maybe could be annoyed because what do they have, about the third or fourth best record in baseball, and they're getting stuck starting so early. But you knew that was going to happen because it's all about TV ratings at this time, and
Yeah.
it's all now it becomes all TV programming, and the TV networks are going to put the games they think have a chance to make them more money. They're going to play them at night, and it's really interesting this year because with no New York teams, no Mets or no Yankees, no Boston, and I guarantee you that the networks, ESPN showing the wild card games this week, guarantee you, and I haven't talked to anybody, but I guarantee you they were really, really disappointed to see the Marlins or Diamondbacks squeeze out the Cubs, because Cubs are always better ratings. And without the Cubs, the Mets, the Yankees, there's, Arizona's a low ratings team. Milwaukee's a low ratings team. Tampa Bay historically is a low ratings team. So, and it's interesting the way this is all breaking down. And I can't imagine the TV networks are all that happy, but hey, the playoffs for us baseball fans. And I do get worn out when we keep hearing about TV ratings, because I'm like, there's more to life. I mean, it's teams like Milwaukee, if they make a run and go deep, that's great for baseball for my money. But in terms of I don't really see any advantage or disadvantage. Really, the only thing you would say is if a team that's starting in the twilight, like the games in Tampa Bay are indoors.
Yeah.
So no shadows. Hitters aren't going to be in shadows trying to see pitchers in sunlight.
Okay.
So
that makes sense.
yeah, Tampa Bay, that's not going to matter. I mean, the Toronto, Minnesota games that start at 3-ish Minnesota time.
Mm-hmm.
The advantage there could be whoever takes a lead in the first 6 innings, because, I'm not sure what time the shadows are going to come out in target field, but, it's not going to be when they start at 3. So it could be later in the game. You may have Toronto, Minnesota hitters battling the shadows during clutch at bats in the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings, given those start times.
Yeah. Okay. And that makes sense. Scott, I have to ask you this before we go, because they're not involved in it, but the Shohei Ohtani free agent watch is going to be one of the biggest things Major League Baseball has ever had. Now, the fact he's having surgery might lower it a bit because he's not pitching next year. But from people that you talk to, and I know you've covered the league for a long time, what's your expectations on Ohtani? And do you think he might sign a shorter term contract?
I doubt it. I think it's going to be a big contract. I think that, and I think because he his first 6 years, he came over, he could have waited. If he would have played one more year in Japan and then come over, he would have qualified for true free agency and gotten millions and millions and millions of dollars. But he wanted to come over to prove himself in the major leagues early. And he had to sign a cheaper contract because of that. So I expect this will be a big contract. I doubt if it's going to be short term. I don't think he likes the limelight and the publicity. He just wants to play baseball. Yeah. If it's a short-term deal would just turn that into more of a circus. I think teams already know what he can do.
Yeah.
I know the injury means he's probably not going to be able to pitch next year. But I think if it's a big money team like the Dodgers, for example, were to sign him, I think they're going to have flexibility. Like, hey, we want you to be a two-way player, but we'll love to have you as a hitter next year, and we'll work out the pitching later. If you've got the money the Dodgers have, you can afford that luxury to kind of wait and bring him back slowly, as opposed to, I mean, not that they're going to have the money, but say the Milwaukee Brewers, if they were to dive in, a team like that can't afford that kind of money for a potential two-way player when he can't pitch for another year or two. So I still think it won't be a short-term deal. I think the Dodgers are in great position to get Ohtani this winter.
Scotty, pick your 4 winners in the wild card week.
4 winners, wild card week. I will say Tampa Bay over Texas. I will say Toronto over the Twins. I will say Philadelphia over Miami. And let's go Milwaukee over Arizona.
Milwaukee over Arizona. Awesome, Scott. I look forward to it, man. Tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday, potentially 4 games every day. Definitely 4 games tomorrow and Wednesday, and we'll see what happens for Thursday. It's going to be a great week. We appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
You got it, Jason. Take care.
Bet that is Scott Miller from Sirius XM, the MLB network. And, man, it sets up. It's huge. So Jays game gets going at 2:38 our time. Tomorrow, Texas and Tampa is the first one, first pitch at 1:08. And the thing about baseball, when it says 1:08, it'll be 1:08, which is great. Got to know when to tune in. That's always nice. That was our MLB report brought to you by Legacy Heating and Cooling. When we return, Ryan's rant on The Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
Action Electrical is expanding.
Cleaned and repaired every year. Well, your RV has all the systems your house has, plus most of the ones in your car too. I'm Rick Showers from No Bull RV. Your RV is the most complex thing you own. Ain't that right, Bob?
There's a lot going on with your RV, Rick.
And since your RV is used, you need someone who specializes in RVs that have seen a few miles. Right, Bob?
You've pretty much seen it all, Rick.
My staff of RV service specialists do more than just a quick winterization. We provide a full inspection, top to bottom. Check the furnace, plumbing, and electrical systems, as well as the brakes, wheels, and suspension. The whole point of an RV is to enjoy the great outdoors with your family. And you can't do that if it's not in top condition. That's where we come in. I'm Rick Showers, and I look forward to seeing you.
And that's Noble.
NobleRV.ca.
Portions of this hour brought to you by EWELL. From LED lighting audits and retrofits to design-built distribution systems, EWELL service can help you give you the edge to impress your clients. EWELL.ca.
Sports Radio is back. The Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440.
Presented by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website.
Jason Gregor, Terry Ryan, Connor Halley, and of course, all of you, thanks for joining us on Sports 1440, the Jason Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca. You can always text us in our Jiffy Lube inbox, 833-401-1440. That's also the phone line. We have open line time. So just put the number in your phone, save it, text or call, either one. It's nice. We like it a lot. Let's get to Ryan's rant, brought to you by Action Electrical. Solar and other green energy projects have a business income tax incentive. Learn more at actionelectrical.net. Here is Ryan's rant with Terry Ryan. Oh, TR, we got his mic. We're not hearing him, so we'll have to figure that out. Cons. We'll get that reset up, whatever you guys were playing around with the commercial break. We'll reset it. Get it up in a sec. While we do that, got lots of texts to get to. Hey, guys, Brad Malone's tough. I'd like to see a loyal soldier like him get some love from the organization, but they really need his leadership down on the farm. Here's the thing. The Oilers want the best possible player to be their fourth line center and not worry about leadership in the American League. That's how I would look at it. If Brad Malone is your best available option, I take Brad Malone. I don't worry about leadership in the American League. I got lots of other veterans that can be leaderships down there, right? Sam Gagner is going to be down there. I think he'd be more than a good leader for the time that he's there. I think they have some other options. If indeed you realize that Malone is the best one to do it. Hey, guys, I'm trying to figure out the bottom six. Is there a Holloway, McLeod, Lavoie line? Last time the Oilers won the Cup, they had a Young Guns line. Is that too young for a bottom six line? And does that hurt either Holloway or Lavoie? Well, I think Warren Fogle is in the mix. Warren Fogle played really well. I thought him and Dylan Holloway were two of the best players on the weekend. I think to start, Warren Fogel's, in your top nine. I think it's when McLeod is ready to go, and they're hoping that, he might get in one of the final two preseason games. That's their hope. And if he's ready to go, or when he's ready to go, because it doesn't sound like, at least from people that I've talked to, that they don't think it's something that should, go that long. But here we are, it's Monday, and McLeod hasn't played yet. So he's only got 2 games left. Now, they said 1 or 2 games. They felt like if they got into 1 or 2 games, it'd be okay. But I think McLeod, Holloway, and Fogle is likely your third line when they're all healthy to start. And then that leaves Ryan and Janmark and one of Lavoie, Peterson, Malone, Adam Ernie. That's kind of how I see it. I think it's pretty crystal clear. I don't see any Hey, guys, does it concern anyone that McLeod is always hurt from the hammer? Well, you know what? Injuries are they can be unpredictable at times. especially McLeod, like he was skating fine and he just, had like a soft tissue issue, which, is that a concern? Is it just unlucky? I don't know. Like I look at McLeod last year, I thought he was just starting to play very well when he had the 3-point game, and then he got hurt in the second last shift of the game, right? To me, it's kind of bad luck, right? Like he missed what? I only think he missed like one game in 2022, right? Maybe two, because he was down in the minors to start, then he got called up. I'm trying to think, maybe he missed one game. I have to double check on that. And then last year, obviously, he missed 25, right? But so yeah, I don't know. I look at his junior year, he played 68, he played 68, and then he got traded that year, played 63. So he doesn't really have a track record of missing a ton of games. So I'm not, I guess to answer your question, I'm not that concerned yet. I wouldn't be. Hey, Greg's having TR join the show has been awesome. His insight to the game is very easily understandable from Eddie. Thanks for having him. Yeah, I think, he's able to present his thoughts in a way that even if you weren't elite level player, you can understand it. Hey, guys, so let me get this straight. Raphael Lavoie scored a preseason goal. Ty Ratty's super impressed from Brad. Ooh, ouch. So, Brad. Now, Brad, you know what? In one sense, I do agree with you that people can get a little bit too excited about preseason play. But even before Raphael, and because keep in mind, the goal he scored was the second goal in a 5-1 game. It wasn't like it was a meaningful goal, right? But it's a good goal. And when you're in preseason, trust me, the old adage, 60 minutes. We want to play a 60-minute game. Well, guess what? Whether you score in the first minute of the game or in the 56, it's not his fault that the other team has scored 5 goals at that point, right? So I don't discount scoring. I think it matters. I think it helps for confidence and everything else. But I'm very intrigued by tonight's game. Now, Seattle doesn't have a full roster, but it's getting closer. Like you look, it's probably about 60% NHL players tonight. And I'm guessing by Wednesday and Friday, it's going to jump up to 80 and maybe 90 come Friday's game potentially. So you get a better sense now. These games this week, I put more onus on than what we saw earlier. It's just how it is, man. And the fact that Ernie and Lavoie are on the same line, I think is great. I think it just kind of fuels the internal competition. Guys, the main problem I see with Lavoie is he doesn't kill penalties. If he did, the spot would be his from Dean. It's possible. Yeah, well, now Adam Ernie, I don't think is killing. I have to go back. I don't think Ernie's killing penalties. Right? Peterson does. Malone does. So, and they're centers. So that's a clear advantage, yes. But neither one shoots the puck like Lavoie. Neither one's 6'4". So, well, there are other avenues for sure. Hey, guys, Lavoie doesn't bring what the Oilers need. Why not trade him for Jake Evans? Would that make any sense? Now, I know Low Tide's been talking about that. So, what does Jake Evans bring you that, do you think he's a little bit more robust? I guess. He doesn't really bring a lot of offense. He's never been a big time scorer. No, he's a decent player in college, right? I think he's a point a game guy. At the American League level, decent production, but not a goal scorer. Yeah, you're right. He kills penalties, and they don't necessarily need a goal scorer. But I don't know. Is Jake Evans he's a right shot center, so that's fair. At least you're bringing up a positional player that the Oilers need. That is fair. So I'll be honest. I haven't seen enough of Jake Evans. So I'll do some digging and talk to some guys who watch him way more than I do. And we'll try to figure out just how, would that benefit the Edmonton Oilers, right? Hey, Greg's, why not just wait for waivers? From Doug. Well, you could, Doug, but do we know for sure there's going to be an upgrade on that player? And then keep in mind that if you bring in somebody on waivers that just means all of those guys we talked about are all going to the minors. Well, Ernie doesn't have to. He's on a PTO, so I guess they could just release him. And that's the thing with Ernie, because we've had a few questions about that. Do you think he would start in the American League? Well, again, it's going to come down to two things. Does Edmonton feel they have enough depth that they don't need Ernie? And if they feel that, because it's like, well, do we have enough depth that we can recall someone from the minors if we get into 2 or 3 or 4 injuries, worst case scenario? Drake Caggiula, for instance. Do they feel that Caggiula, Ernie, the gap is small enough that they can get by for a week to 2 weeks with him as their 12th forward in the NHL? Rather than have Caggiula and Ernie on the roster in the American League, taking ice time away from the Petrovs and the Chasons and the Tulios and the Borgos, for instance. Obviously, they're not going to take ice time from all of them, but you know what I mean. So that's what they have to weigh. They got a lot of contracts at the American League level. So I don't get it. Hey, guys, I don't think Lavoie's foot speed is NHL level. On to the next player. That's from Ricky from Mooseman. Yeah, see, I don't see Lavoie's foot speed as being a negative. He's not a burner, but was Clean Costin a burner? Was Nick Bukestad a burner? Was Kyler Yamamoto a burner? Right? Not everybody has to be super. I don't think Lavoie is noticeably slow. I could be wrong, but I haven't noticed it. I don't know if anybody else has. We'll see. Hey, Greg's, people get too excited, both good and bad, about preseason. I don't get it. I only hope for no injuries during these games. Russ in the burn. Well, I think there are, like, for young players, it matters a lot. I'll tell you that right now. Right? Even though Bourgault is not going to make the team, he wants to show well. He's going to get to test himself, even if it's only 50% rosters of NHL guys. He still gets a few shifts out there against NHL players. And it's a good measuring stick. So I think there's value in it. I do agree with you that overrating players positively or negatively, right? Oh, this guy scored 3 goals. Oh my goodness, he's going to be a killer. Or this guy didn't score. He's a bust. Trade him. He's never going to be good. I don't think either take is great in that regards. So, hey, boys, do you think the Oilers are still planning to play 12-6, or will there still be some 11-7 from Tim? I think it's going to be a combination of both, Tim. I can't say with any sort of accuracy on what the rotation is going to be. They're going to start the season, unless there's a significant injury to a player with cap space this week. They're going to start the season with a 21-man roster, 2 goalies. That means 19 skaters. Go 12-7, or you go 13-6. 12-7 probably makes more sense because you can play with 11-7. But if you get a defenseman injured, now you got to try to recall a defenseman. Maybe you got back, it's just not ideal. You can, of course, you have time, you can do it, but I think they would probably stick with 12-7. We'll try to get our technical difficulties fixed with TR when we return. Andi Petrillo will be by. Also, Kevin Woodley. Lots of goaltending talk as he is back. And we have some text. Hey, Greg's, what happened to Cam Tate? Cam Tate, unfortunately, has got serious case of pneumonia. He's in the hospital. And so we're hoping a quick recovery for Tater. And he will be back with us for the 2-minute warning very soon on Monday and Friday. So if you want to send some positive vibes to the Cam man, please do so. And we hope that he's able to return safely. He's got a little bit of infection, and he also has pneumonia right now. And we're hoping that he will be recovered very quickly. Let's get to Connor Halley and a Sports 1440 update brought to you by Fountain Tire. Right now, during the Road Ready sales event, you can save up to 25% off select tires and a bonus of $50 off any service until October 21st. Book your appointment at FountainTire.com. Some restrictions apply.
This is a Sports 1440 update.
Game day, the Oilers in Seattle to take on the Kraken as the preseason continues. This one gets going at 8 o'clock. Elsewhere, the Penguins host the Sens, Bruins in Philadelphia. The Devils take on the Islanders. Columbus hosting St. Louis. The Canadiens in Toronto. And Flames taking on the Winnipeg Jets. The Anaheim Ducks have signed restricted free agent Trevor Zegras to a 3-year contract worth $17.25 million. Zegras completed his 3-year entry-level deal last season, recording a career-high 23 goals and 65 points. Week 4 in the NFL wraps up as the Seahawks take on the Giants. Kickoff 6:15. You can join me at the Windermere Canadian Brewhouse for your chance to qualify to win a trip to the Super Bowl for 2 in Las Vegas. An MRI has confirmed that Buffalo Bills starting cornerback Tre'Davious White has torn his Achilles. He will now miss the remainder of the season. And sad news is one of the best running backs to ever play in the CFL. George Reed passed away at the age of 83 on Sunday. The Hall of Famer played 13 years with the Rough Riders and was named MVP in the club's first Grey Cup win back in 1966. His rushing touchdown record of 134 still stands today. Coming up in hour 3 of the Jason Gregor Show, we'll be joined by Andi Petrillo of CBC Sports and Kevin Woodley from In Goal Magazine. I'm Connor Halley. This has been a Sports 1440 update.
Sports 1440, a Stingray radio station. CKJR broadcasts from West Edmonton.
This is not a gambling website.
Portions of this hour brought to you by Leading Edge Physio. Professional athletes use aquatic therapy, radial shockwave, zero-gravity treadmills, and pneumatic recovery devices for rehab. Leading Edge Physiotherapy offers those to you because sports shouldn't hurt. LeadingEdgePhysio.com.
Sports Radio is back. The Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440.
Presented by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website.
Human beings taking up all of our time. Wanna leave, but I got to stay. And I'm wondering more every day. Montreal to Hong Kong. Where have all the good people gone? Traffic jam, put them on the shoulder. To take cops to pull me over. Bangkok to Babylon. Where have all the good people gone? I haven't met a friend in a long, long while. They don't shake my head, but they...
We continue on Monday afternoon. Welcome back to the show. How are you? Jason Gregor Show, presented by our title sponsor, PlayAlberta.ca, where, hey, you know what? It's better than nothing in the month of September. We're helping out kids sport because every day we make a $20 wager at PlayAlberta.ca, and at the end of the month, anything that we are up, we donate to the charity. So we'll be adding it to our total for the Pizza Pig Out for kids sport. It was a whopping $88, but hey, better than being down. So there you go. We're hoping October will be a little bit better. So we'll get to some of that later on today. Should be a lot of fun. I'm Jason Gregor. Terry, do we have your technical difficulties figured out? I can kind of hear you. Yeah, you're very low.
I'm not sure what's happening. I use this every day. I don't know my will. Turn it on.
Yeah. No, I can hear you, but it's very faint. So we'll get you and Declan to have a chat on the phone, and we'll try to figure out or maybe we'll just get you on the phone. That might be a little bit better to ensure that it works out. So we'll figure that out. Try to get you a set of headsets too. So get those guys to figure it out. You got to love the wonders of technology. Now, let's talk a little soccer with our Monday, and even some hockey with our Monday regular 4 p.m. guest as Andi Petrillo from CBC Sports and Soccer One joins us. Andi, how you doing?
Good. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Wonderful.
Can hear you just fine. Now, Andi, of course, your main gig is covering all things soccer, and granted, I don't cover soccer as in-depthly as you do, but it seems odd to me that John Herdman is the head coach of Toronto, yet he's not going to be coaching. He's going to be observing for the first bit. Why?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. There are a lot of theories, and you're right. It's very strange. This is somebody who was announced as the head coach on August 28th. And in that announcement, they said he would take over Toronto FC on October 1st. So already people were like, whoa, that's strange. Like, where in the world of sport have you heard of a club, a team announce a head coach and say, but he's not going to start for like another month or so. And then in the process of all of that, so basically taking over October 1st means there are 3 games left in the season for Toronto FC. So like, okay, he'll coach the last 3 games. Then we heard that he won't be coaching the final 3 games. He'll probably just be the coach for the last game of the season, which also happens to be a home game. So it's all very strange. But I think more than anything here, Jason, it's the club's unwillingness to just say, listen, we named him as head coach. He's going to come in for like the last game. He's going to be around, but he's really like going to take over next season. It all seems a little secretive, which also seems a little weird. And then, so there's a lot of people, and because of that, a lot of people are just developing their own theories. So you have some people who are like, this is absolutely brilliant. Yes, it's unheard of, but maybe this is the way it should be for new coaches who come in, get acclimated, know the workings, the ins and outs, see the players, observe them from a distance. Maybe this is a genius move. And then there are others that are like, this is beyond weird. Is this some sort of mind game? And then because, quite frankly, Toronto FC has been really bad this season. I mean, they have 4 wins all year. Some people are like, is this John Herdman not wanting to ruin his own coaching record as he enters the pro game for the first time? So all these different storylines swirl because it's just so bizarre. But I mean, either way, he was at training today, so he's at the club now, and we'll see if this new tactic works.
It is odd. I don't care what anyone tells me. I don't know if I can say it's brilliant.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I'm kind of like, to observe from afar kind of goes against everything, because now you're going to make observations without being as informed as you can. You're always more informed when you're on the inside.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, unless somebody can correct us who's ever listening right now, I have just never heard of this anywhere in the world of sport, like where they're like, yeah, this guy's going to be our new head coach. But psych, he won't be here for another few months. And you're like, what? Like, why would you name them? It's kind of weird, but I don't know. We'll see. I mean, again, maybe there's more to it than we realize. Like Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, maybe they put the pressure on the president, Bill Manning, to be like, we need to have a head coach. So maybe he felt the pressure to name a head coach, knowing full well that maybe he was really going to take over next year anyway. But it all just seems to be in line with how crazy this year has been for Toronto FC, that's for sure. But we'll see. I mean, Herdman's entering the pro game for the first time. Can he translate, what he was doing at the national team level, which, as we know, is so different. Like, you see your players once every few months. You have months to plan, for a tournament, for friendlies, whereas this is every day. It is day in, it is day out. It's a grind. Are the same tactics going to work? The same kind of motivational speeches when you're seeing guys every day. So just for Herdman himself, this is brand new territory. We'll see how it goes.
Andi Petrillo joins us. Andi, the Canadian Premier League is growing, but refereeing seems to be lagging. Kyle Becker of Forge called out the refs big time here. And then you had Nathan Ingram of Ottawa calling out his teammates. I'm not sure which one's better or worse, but I guess let's start with the officiating one. It's always easy to call out officials. I'll be honest, I haven't watched enough CPL games to have any sort of informed opinion on the level of officiating. But I think there might be a problem in officiating, because at the amateur level, nobody wants to officiate because you got lunatic parents and coaches at young levels who freak out. So everybody's like, I don't want to do it. So they don't get any experience, and then we don't have a pool of refs to pick from.
Yeah, this is where I was really hoping Terry would fix his mic. I was curious to get his thoughts on the Nathan Ingham one and just like a teammate calling out other teammates. But yeah, we'll start with Kyle Becker. And let me tell you, he was not mincing words. If anyone wants to go and find that audio, he just flat out said, like, this league is growing. The players are doing their part, the coaches, the fans, the media, like, we're all doing our part. And he just flat out said, but the refereeing is just not keeping up. And I guess, in some ways it's expected. When a league is in its infancy and it's growing, certain aspects are just probably going to be slower to catch up. It's sad that it's the officiating. To your point, though, many times, like, I mean, my goodness, even at the NHL, NBA, like, you name it, top leagues are always going to complain about the officiating. But I will say that this does seem a little bit universal in that it's across all 8 teams. They all seem to be very upset that the officiating doesn't seem to be catching up. And the CPL, it's a development league, but it's not just a development for players and coaches. It's also that way for the officials. So they're learning, and I'm pretty sure. So Isaac Raymond is the head of officiating with Canada Soccer and CPL. And I just really hope that he's listening to the players. I hope that he's going to come up with a plan. I don't know whether it's camps, whether it's just something with officials and players and how they can make it better, because there are some glaring mistakes. I think in this particular instance, a lot of people will look at, what Kyle Becker said and be like, it's kind of hard to fault him for being as angry as he was. And I think a lot of other players on other teams. So it wasn't just like, but the reason why he also said it was a call went a certain way against them that awarded Halifax a penalty kick. It was pretty obvious the Halifax player dove, but the refs, and again, many refs seem to fall for this. And, he was upset about it. But again, it wasn't just a Forge thing. There have been players on other teams who have said things. So it seems to be across the board. And, again, I just hope that this is the league and Isaac Raymond, who heads officiating, like, they're listening, because it is a league that's growing. And that's understandable, but you have to keep up and you have to develop these refs. These are refs who also have aspirations, by the way, of moving on to MLS, other leagues. These are refs that also have aspirations of reffing, at big tournaments, right? We've seen Canadian officials have their role in World Cups. Like they have dreams too. You got to get better. So hopefully certain things will be put into place to help that part of it grow. And then, Nathan Ingham with Atletico Ottawa, once again, letting in a late goal. He basically told his teammates to grow up. And I was like, I wonder if he might want to take that back just a little bit. He is a leader. He's a veteran in the league, Jason. But oftentimes I think people, or at least teammates, will be a lot more forgiving if a guy gets in front of the mic and uses the we. We need to be better. We need to grow up. We need to do this. We need to do that. Even if he's been the best player on the team, it's always appreciated more when he includes himself in the group, when he kind of turns around and says, I told my teammates to grow up. I told them it's not good enough. I don't know how that's going to go over in the room, but he clearly needed to get something off his chest, that's for sure.
And Andi, Terry's with us, so I'm going to ask Terry. Terry, how would you respond if one of your teammates came out and said, they're immature, they need to step up rather than we do?
Yeah, that's a huge no-no. There's to me, there's things there's things as an athlete you do, and there's things you don't do. There's a huge gray area in between, and we can sit here and talk about those all day long, and there's sports arguments and debates that are interesting. But for me, you never, ever do that. Call out your teammates so obviously, because obviously you're not without flaw, right? And, well, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, it's a tough one, man, too, because he's the goalkeeper. So I can imagine Terry, he probably feels like in many ways he's being hung out to dry. They're fighting for a playoff spot. Now they're going to be out. Like, emotions were high, but, that's why it's good to hear from a player perspective, because you're always like, bro, what are you doing? Right? After he walks into the room, I can imagine how that conversation went down.
Like anything, there's good scorers, there's good hitters. Some people just say they might not articulate it the right way. And there's a real knack to that, right? There's a finesse around that. Guys that used to be players. Sheldon Keefe's a good example. Any coach really, but you're on that seat and you've got to answer these questions, and everybody knows what the answer is, right? And some people probably are on your side, but when you articulate it that way, just because not so much for the look, although it looks terrible to fans, there are people that you're playing with and you're showing up with, and there's just, for me, it's real easy to cause a whole lot of cancerous behavior in the room, for lack of a better way to put it. I mean, metaphorically, when you act like that, and I just don't see an excuse for it. It was my number one pet peeve as a player, for sure.
Andi Petrillo joins Jason Gregor, Terry Ryan here on the Jason Gregor Show. Andi, one last one for you. Christine Sinclair and her club secured their a playoff spot, but after the game, she was very emotional and upset. What do you make of this? Is this nearing the end? Is Christine Sinclair going to retire, do you think?
This is a big one, Jason. As you know, she's a legend in the sport. People love her. And the Canadian women, they got it done. They qualified for Paris. These, of course, are the reigning Olympic champions, but they had to go through that qualifier with Jamaica. And that second game, so first of all, she doesn't play in the first game. These are two crucial games.
Yeah.
She doesn't play in that first one, which already raised some eyebrows. Then in the second game, she once again didn't start. And when she got subbed into the game, it was pretty much over at that point. We knew Canada was going to beat Jamaica. They were going to go. And then afterwards, she was crying. Teammates, Shalina Zadorsky was noticeably comforting her. So afterward, I was trying to do my due diligence in the bowels of BMO Field. And I'm like, can somebody tell me what's going on here? And I was speaking to people at Canada Soccer, and it was kind of intimated to me that it was like, that this is it. It's kind of done for her, and that the team. So there is a FIFA window at the end of October. They're going to plan some games for that. And I believe there's another FIFA window beginning of December. Okay. And I from what I understand, Canada Soccer will be playing some home games, and they would preferably like to make one of those games in Vancouver so they can give her a send-off. This is what we're hearing right now. And if you listened to Bev Priestman closely after the match, she said Christine's goal was to get us to the Olympics, which, by the way, is a different message than what was being said to us before. It was always understood that Christine would play in the Paris 2024 Olympics. So somewhere, something has changed. Maybe it was the fact that, you know, it was a pretty bad World Cup. They don't advance out of the group stage. Maybe Christine's like, I'm tired. I am getting old. Maybe she realizes again, Bev Priestman's not playing me. I'm not a starter anymore. And not that that makes her a bad teammate, but, you know, when you've been the superstar, when you've been the goal scorer, sometimes, you know, it's hard to change your role and not be that anymore. So maybe she's recognizing it's best to step aside and let the next generation take over. But for me, her crying after the game, Bev Priestman's words saying her goal was to get us to the Olympics, and she didn't say to play at the Olympics. And then even people within Canada Soccer talking about trying to book a game in Vancouver. It's looking like, you know, the 40-year-old Christine Sinclair, who has represented this country proudly and has done this country proud, we could be saying goodbye to her, I guess, within this year, Jason. So keep an eye out for that.
Well, that'd be a big story. Eventually, age catches up with all the great athletes, but and so I could see why it would be emotional. Andi, great stuff as always. We appreciate your time. We'll talk to you next Monday.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys.
That is Andi Petrillo from CBC and Sports One. Jason Gregor alongside Terry Ryan. TR, have you ever had a teammate like at any level where they said something publicly and then it caused a conversation within the room?
Well, yes, I'll tell you the most famous example of that I've been a part of.
Okay.
This didn't bother me at all, but I got drafted to Montreal, in 95. The year before was a lockout, so it was a late draft.
Yeah.
It was July 8th. So I went, not immediately, but maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, I went right to Montreal. I was working out with the team and you know, getting to know my bearings. I just fell off the turnip truck. Real raw. I mean, St. John, Mount Pearl to Quesnel, BC to Tri-Cities, smaller places. And, you know, now I'm in Montreal, two years removed from them winning the cup. And it seemed like a great atmosphere in the room, man. Those guys were buddies to this day. There's people I met at that camp, like Mark Lamb, just like one camp. And I know if I saw him again, Mike Keane, another one, Lilo Line, I'd shake their hands and sit down, like real nice fellas. It seemed like a good vibe in the room. But Mike Keane came out one day. It was really, we just ate like lunch. I was getting to know everybody, and there was a presser, and I remember like I answered the typical first round pick questions and met the press. And Mike Keane came out and he had a question about learning French because he was just made captain. And he said, I don't think that I necessarily need to be fluent in French. Now, he went on to explain that we didn't speak it in the locker room. It was spoken, of course, amongst the French. But for the most part, they used English because everybody would know it. He wasn't opposed to learning it, but the way that he articulated it wasn't the best. And he was, I believe, traded, if not right away, within a month. It could have been right away, though. And that's probably the biggest example of a quote that came back to bite a player that I've been involved with, given the circumstance. You're talking about the captain of the Montreal Canadiens. One more was Vladimir Malakoff. I forget, but he called out some teammates. I forget in what way, because he wasn't going to call me out. I mean, I'm there practicing. And then they caught him skiing. He was out with a bad knee when he said it.
Yeah.
And they caught him skiing on Mount Tremblant, where we'd all had camp that year. It was a nice resorty spot. And anyway, so I found that one kind of hypocritical. And again, I don't know him very well. He wasn't like he was my teammate, close teammate, but I guess he technically was. And that was another example.
Quick break. When we come back, Kevin Woodley will join us on Sports 1440. He's got some numbers on Stuart Skinner. What you expect in year 2? Young goalies. There's lots of numbers that will tell you what to expect. Also, a Jack Campbell bounce back. We'll get to that. Also, Demko is healthy. What does that mean to the Canucks? And the waiver wire will be very busy for goalies. Who should be the ones that Tampa Bay picks? We'll find out next on the Jason Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
Edmonton's premium live music and party venue is
On the Rocks.
Check out Bingo Tunes on Monday.
You'll absolutely love the new and app-approved Booster Juice app. Download it today and start earning berry points for app-amazing rewards. Apply your points for all of your Booster Juice favorites for free, from booster balls to smoothies, snacks, and combo deals, even digital gift cards. Plus, receive personalized offers that appeal directly to you. The new and app-approved Booster Juice app. More than just online ordering. Download it.
Papa John's. Try their new butter chicken pizza made with velvety, tangy, sweet sauce topped with juicy grilled chicken, green peppers, and onions. Large butter chicken pizza for just $19.99 for a limited time at papajohns.ca.
Sports Radio is back. The Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440.
Presented by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website.
I'm coming. I'm on my way.
Rolling through Monday afternoon. Of course, game day. Oilers in Seattle to take on the Kraken. McDavid, Draisaitl, and Hyman are expected to be aligned tonight after Nugent Hopkins, Kane, and Brown were aligned on Saturday. You will have Holloway, Ryan, and Janmark. Derek Ryan playing center. Ernie, Hamblin, and Lavoie. Also, Brad Malone centering Borgo and Griffith. On the back end, Kulak and Ceci, Gleason and Broberg, Deneen and Kemp and Jack Campbell. In goal for the Kraken, Beniers with McCann and Eberle, Wenberg with Burakovsky and Schwartz, so they're two lines. Right, that's Shane, will center Yamamoto and Cardi, and then Podolarski will center Hayden and former Oiler Devon Shore. On the back end, Evans and Larson, Dumoulin and Justin Schultz, Magna, Fleury, and then Philip Grubauer in between the pipes. So, as I mentioned, getting closer to NHL rosters, not 100%, but close to around 60, 65% players tonight are expected to be on their NHL rosters, which is always good. Let's go around the NHL now, brought to you by McDonald's. Enjoy your choice of sausage or chicken McMuffin with a hash brown and a small coffee for only $25 right now at McDonald's. Is Kevin Woodley from In Goal Magazine and NHL.com. Joins Jason Gregor alongside Terry Ryan. Kev, good to see you again, my man. Hope things are going well. And let's start right in Edmonton with their goaltending. Stuart Skinner coming off a finalist as the Rookie of the Year. What do the numbers tell you about goalies in year two?
I'll be honest with you. It wasn't so much the numbers as we have seen in the past. Goalies sort of take a step back, right? That sophomore slump is a real thing for, I think, a lot of players, but in goalies in particular, honestly believe it's about the pre-scout and the amount of information that's out there. I think when you get through your first year, very rarely are teams paying as much attention as maybe they should be. And we've talked about this before. Like, the type of detail that goes into it, breaking down and attacking a goaltender, becomes most relevant in the playoffs. I don't believe that teams play or pay as much attention to it when it's 1 of 82 on a Tuesday night as they are when it's a best of 7. But typically, when you get into the playoffs, as Skinner did, some of the details, some of the sort of tendencies in your game, they get picked over pretty good. And when you head into your second year, especially coming off of playoffs, that's when teams tend to, there's things they look for, right? And so the thing about Skinner, though, that I think makes him not sophomore slump proof necessarily, but maybe a little more resistant to it, is there aren't any extremes in his game, Jason. Like, he's not a super aggressive goalie who's, way outside his crease. I'll give you an example, like Spencer Martin here in Vancouver, first time through. It was a small sample, but he ran with a 950 last year, obviously got exposed a little bit. And I thought once he was in as the starter after Demko got hurt, what teams were clearly identifying and taking advantage of is once somebody got an open look on end zone play, he was so aggressive in terms of, and they just started passing it around him. And, again, Stewart doesn't play to those extremes. I don't think that's an option. But the only thing I would worry about with him is, if the Oilers start giving up the middle because he is a little more passive and doesn't paint around the edges of his crease, if teams get time and space in the middle of the ice, are you going to see them start to sort of maybe pick spots? We always think of high glove. Frankly, I'd be over the pads on Stewart a little bit more than I would be up in the corners, things like that. I just don't see the extremes in his game that are more likely to lead to bigger swings in his play in the second year than maybe somebody who, like I said, plays a little more aggressive one way or another. I think there's a lot of neutrality to Stuart Skinner's game, and I say that as a positive.
Jack Campbell, it's only one preseason game, but he looked very good against the Calgary Flames. He spoke that he spent a lot of the offseason just trying to maybe clear out the mental side of his game. And, obviously he changed all his equipment midseason, which is almost unheard of for a goaltender. I think Jack Campbell can bounce back and be 905 to 9-4 to 910. If he falls in that category in today's NHL, that's totally fine. What do you make of Campbell? And I know it's only one preseason start, but where do you think he's at?
Well, listen, we talked about this last year, right? Like, I wasn't really worried about Jack Campbell's game so much as I was at times between the years. I think there was a point last year where I said, I wouldn't be looking for a new goalie guru. I'd be looking for a sports psychologist, just because he was so hard on himself. And that's so hard to do in a market, any Canadian market. He got away with it in Toronto. Listen, he is not as bad as he was last year. I still, we talked about this when they made the signing. You looked at the numbers in Toronto, what you compared, how much of that was his performance relative to, the team and how well they defended in front of him. And he graded out in the 30s. Would I have paid that much for that contract given that? Probably not. But last year was well below that. He's a better goaltender than he showed last year. And I think with experience, and I know he, I'm not at liberty to discuss what names he reached out to, but I know he reached out to people. When he says that, he went and sought out other advice in the offseason, I know that for a fact because I know some of the people that he did reach out to and sort of went to get new voices and new ideas and new direction. And so if that did also include somebody to help him sort of manage the mental game and be able to reset and frankly just not be as hard on himself as he has been, frankly, throughout his career, I think that that's a positive direction. It's really easy to pick on him after the year he had last year, but we saw some positive signs down the stretch. As you said, and that didn't just change gear. He changed entire, not only equipment companies twice, but he changed the total style of pad that he wore. I mean, that's huge. And he did it a couple times, frankly. And so just to have all of that behind him and be a little more settled, if you can combine that with just maybe not beating himself up as much when he does make a mistake, I think those are all positives. And I think you'll see him much improved from last year. As long as that environment continues to be as strong, much like it was for him in Toronto, the numbers could look really good this season.
Kevin, I know you've probably been asked this 1,000 times this week and are sick of answering it, but what do you think the Lightning are going to do about the Vasilevsky problem? Well, the surgery, the time off, all of the above.
Well, okay, the good news, Terry, on the surgery side of things is I've had that one. That's the closest I'm ever going to get to Andre Vasilevsky as we now share a surgery. And as a goalie, I can tell you, it was a little worrisome when the problem crept up and when it was identified, but it was just a massive relief to have the discectomy and to basically have that pain turned off. And frankly, I ain't in Andre Vasilevsky shape, and I was back after a couple of months and playing hockey without a problem ever since. So I think a lot of people have looked at that and the fact it's a back and the contortion type positions that Andre puts himself into and being a little worried, right? Because certainly when you have one disc operated on, that's the one thing they do sort of express concern about, is it can start to sort of pop up the chain a little bit on your spine. But, as a goalie, the difference is I get into contorted positions by accident, usually while falling down. He gets into them on purpose. And I haven't had any problems in the year since. I'm also a hell of a lot older than he is. So that's the positive here, the Lightning. I know they've talked about a 10-week window. Given what we know of Vasilevsky's work ethic, do not be surprised if that's a lot sooner. In terms of what they do in the meantime, I'm educated guessing like everybody else, and I'm fascinated to see the answer. And there's a little part of me, as much as I think it's unlikely, there's a little part of me that wonders if they stick with what they have. As much as they seem to believe in Jonas Johansson. And there is a part of me that's like, hey, if you really believe in these guys, in Matt Tompkins and Jonas Johansson, and Matt Tompkins spent some time in Kelowna this summer, training with some people I know, and really seemed to take steps in his game, both in terms of what he does physically, what he's capable of doing physically, working with an osteopath that we work with at In Goal Magazine, and know a number of other pros who have sort of seen him as just a game changer for them. His work with a goalie coach we know up there. Like, I think Tompkins has taken some strides. Now, listen, replacing Andre Vasilevsky, nobody wants to be, sort of thrust into that spotlight. But I think they might give these guys an opportunity. That could all change with the waiver wire, right? Like, we've seen the names that are potentially headed to the waiver wire, and I would think some of them might interest Tampa Bay. The cap situation, because you have to manage these bodies once they're back, once Vasilevsky's back and still be under the cap, makes it interesting. The other name that I wonder about, I mean, obviously on waivers, I mentioned it, there's talk of James Reimer or Alex Lyon in Detroit, like who wins the backup job there? And the other guy, does he end up on waivers, or do the Wings, because they have cap flexibility, just keep 3 to keep them off the waiver wire? Martin Jones in Toronto, obviously what he did, with Seattle last year in terms of maybe not the best numbers, but managing to put up wins and just sort of a steady presence behind a team that has shown they know how to win. Could Toronto find a way to keep 3 goalies to keep him off the waiver wire? Caden Primo in Montreal. There's, again, talk, did they keep 3 there? Nedeljkovic or Hellberg in Pittsburgh. Which one goes down? There's an opportunity to pick a guy off the waiver wire. But the other name I would look at if I was Tampa, and if he's willing to sign for a smaller ticket that doesn't create problems when Vasi is back, that's Yaroslav Halak, who, for the concern there is slow starts. Yaro's a goalie that we've gotten to know here at In Goal really well. He's done video breakdowns with us in the past. He reads the game at such a high level. It's a big part of why he's had success over his career. But those reads require a little timing, right? You need to know the tendencies of your own defenseman, not just what teams are trying to do attacking you, but, how is my defenseman going to play this? How is he going to play that? How is this pairing going to manage this situation? And I then read off that as a goaltender. He's very good at that, but it can take a little time to get comfortable. So we've seen him have slow starts, but I mean, at one point last year, he won 7 in a row for the Rangers. His adjusted save percentage numbers, even here in Vancouver behind a terrible team, were positive to the point where they were in the top 15, top 20 of the NHL. And he's a guy that I know wants to play because he's determined to get to 300 NHL wins, and he's 5 short right now. So maybe this might be just my bias in getting to know Yaro over the years and wanting to see him get that opportunity. But I think he'd be a great fit for that team.
Well, time is on their side. Now I have a question. Speaking of goalies' mobility and In Goal Magazine, I was reading an article about goalies playing goalie tennis. And, in pretty much, I'm just fascinated because I think the goalie position has evolved arguably more than any other position in sports. I mean, it's up there. And there's a lot of goalies working on all kinds of different things and different methods than they ever did. Do you think that we'll get to a point that they get to the rules get changed back and they get to use their hands a little bit more, and being the trapezoid now kind of restricts them? Do you think we'll get to a point that goalies get to use their puck skills more by way of a rule change?
Oh, I would love to see that, Terry, because I think there's a lot of people that like to see it, because as much as a guy like Brodeur changed the game and brought the trapezoid into play, there are a lot of these kids these days, and you mentioned the goalie tennis, and I got to give a shout out to Thomas Spear, the San Jose Sharks goalie coach. He came up with that game while we were in Kelowna at the Net 360 goalie camp. I don't want to say that there may have been some adult beverages and a night at the karaoke bar involved when he came up with that game, but the goalies loved it, and it's a great way. We're seeing from junior goalies to under 12 goalies. I got goalie coaches sending me videos of their kids doing this drill. It's just a fun game at the end of practice that will help you get better puck handling. And man, Terry, the way these kids can chuck it now as goalies, it's remarkable to see the skill involved. And so would I like to see them get an opportunity to display that more in the NHL? Absolutely. But I also think we'd see offense created out of it. Like, you know, we've seen a lot of the studies, right? That'll tell you, like, the goalie's better to get back there and just leave it. Let the guy with the stick that's designed to make passes, the defenseman who gets paid millions of dollars to break the puck out, let him come get it and play it up the ice. You know, we see offense created off goalie mistakes handling the puck, and I don't think it'd be a bad thing if we saw more goalies out in the corner further away from the net, potentially creating some of those mistakes and some of those, as much as they can be groaners when it's your team that does it, you know, they kind of end up on the highlight reel. So I just think it's a skill that still goalies can shine with, but you're right. We could see it even more if they would open it back up. Do I see it happening? I kind of doubt it. You know, they tend to like these rules and not want to revisit them after they've brought them in. But man, I'm with you. I want to see more of it. Let us chuck the puck. Hey, my beer league team, they don't want anything to do with me handling the puck. It's a nightmare waiting to happen. But at the NHL level, I think you could see it both ways. You could see transition offense from guys who are great with it, but you could also see more mistakes and more offense created that way.
And lastly, Kev, when you look at the waiver wire this coming week for goaltenders, there's lots of projections. Who do you see the guys that are going to be exposed? And if you could pick in order, like the top two, who do you think they would be the goalies you would claim on waivers?
You know, I'd probably, like, you look what Alex Lyon did last year. If it is indeed him in Detroit instead of James Reimer, and I got to think it would be. I'd be all over Reimer as a solid backup, because this is the thing, right? When you claim a guy off waivers, you sort of need to keep him on your team.
Yes.
You know, and I think that's one of the reasons that we saw Columbus go after Spencer Martin. I had other goal, and I like Spencer Martin. Last year was a tough year for him, but he got to bear the brunt of when the Canucks were at their worst defensively. He was the goalie behind that. When it was just fire drill night after night after night, he got stuck with those numbers. I think he can be an NHL goaltender. But I think when Columbus claims him, instead of waiting for a James Reimer, an Alex Lyon, a Martin Jones, or a Caden Primo, I think it's in part because they know if Daniel Tarasov, the 6'7" Russian stud that's been having trouble coming back from injury in the preseason, if he is ready, and they need to put Spencer Martin back down in the minors, because of the glut of goaltenders here in Vancouver, it's unlikely Vancouver reclaims him back. So that might be why that decision was made. If you're another team, you need to look at one of these guys and say, is he an upgrade on what we have? Because you need to keep him if you bring him in. Otherwise, you're just going to lose him again. Like, ask Magnus Hellberg how that goes. He ends up playing musical chairs around the league last year, bouncing from team to team. The two guys that I think Reimer would obviously fit that list. He would be an upgrade for some teams in the backup position. I think Alex Lyon can be that guy as well. And Martin Jones as a steady veteran guy. You know, I look at some teams, you know, I think maybe even a New Jersey. If indeed Martin Jones, or when he ends up on waivers, because I know the Leafs with an injury to Connor Timmins might have bought themselves enough time to keep three for a little while. But if at some point Jones end up on waivers, I would not be surprised to see him claimed by a team that sees him in that. You put a good defense in front of Martin Jones, and he can produce results for you. Is he an acrobat anymore? No, but he's such a solid technical goaltender. He's not going to lose you games. And there are some teams that could maybe use that upgrade in the backup position, and he's one of the guys I'd consider if that's what you're looking for.
Kev, as always, great stuff, man. Good to have you back on the show, and we will talk to you every Monday. Have a good one.
I'm happy to be back. For those watching on the TV side, notice the in-goal hat. Happy to see Devin Levi rocking this at the Bills game this weekend, so I had to wear ours in honor of Devin doing that for us.
Hey, what about Devin Levi, Kev? Do you know the last time a goalie went directly from college to be a full-time NHL goalie?
I know Ryan Miller spent a year in the American League. It's something of an obscure name. It might have been Barrasso, no?
Well, yeah, he was one of them. There's only two. And then there was a guy after him whose name escapes me right now, because Barrasso actually came right out of high school.
Right.
And so we're talking like I think it was 1982 is the last time a goalie went directly from college to play a full season in the NHL.
Well, let me tell you, Devin Levi, I spent a week with him in Montreal, and we'll save this for next week because some of the details on what he does. I was one of the people who was like, he should spend time in the American Hockey League just because every goalie should. After spending time with him in Montreal, like, he's my breakout candidate for this year. If you ask me, usually I find some guy who's a journeyman who's, you know, the underlying numbers are great, and I've got a few of those as well. But Devin Levi, I believe, is the real deal. He plays with a level of aggression that I thought might get exposed. Again, as teams start to identify, can you pass around him? God, he is so quick. I'm not sure you can pass around this kid. So I'm really excited. Things for him, whether it happens right away or not. Man, the Sabres have a good one in Devin Levi.
Awesome. Thanks, Kev. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
It's Kevin Woodley from InGoal Magazine and NHL.com. We'll return with 5 questions on the Jason Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
For a limited time at McDonald's, enjoy the tasty breakfast trio. Your choice of sausage or chicken McMuffin or McGriddles with a hash brown and a small premium roast coffee for $5.
This hour brought to you by Cantork. They've continued developing tools and are excited to announce their newest design, battery-powered nut runners. 4 models from 500 to 3,000 foot-pounds with more on the way. Learn more at Cantork.com.
Sports Radio is back. The Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440.
Presented by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website.
We roll through Monday afternoon. Jason Gregor, Connor Halley, Terry Ryan with you along for the ride. Thanks as always. Texts coming in. People getting fired up in the text line. I like it. We know hockey season's right around the corner because the emotion is starting to amp up in the text line. 833-401-1440. It's the same number to dial in when we open up the phone lines, as it's time now to get to 5 questions brought to you by The Brick. We're committed to saving you more at The Brick's price guarantee. You can shop with confidence knowing that you're going to get the lowest prices. If you find the same price somewhere else, The Brick will match it. for The Brick and thebrick.com.
It's time for 5 questions on the Jason Gregor Show.
All right, guys, as the Oilers roster continues to get trimmed down, who's one player you think could surprise us this season in a good or bad way?
Go ahead, TR.
Well, I don't want to steal all the thunder from the last interview we had, but I was going to go with, and I am going to go with Jack Campbell. I got every reason to think that he'll bounce back. He's a great goalie, and I fully agree with Kevin that, not that I'm close on hand, but it seems to me from the way he handled himself, from the questions and answers surrounding him, that it was more between the ears than anything. I think he's a good goalie, and I think he's got a positive attitude. His teammates love him. Why not pick him to bounce back?
It's a good one. See, surprise is the key word there. So I guess I'm going to go. And so I guess it depends on what it is. I think Dylan Holloway is going to be more productive than people are thinking. So I will go Dylan Holloway.
Question number 2. TSN's top 50 NHL players partially revealed, and Connor Bedard coming in at number 48. Thoughts on that? Is it too high for a guy who's never played a regular season game in the NHL?
Now, going back to 2015-16, what was McDavid the start of the year? Like, Connor Bedard's a pretty high player. I do believe, there's always a lot of hype. People love to overhype things. I don't think Connor Bedard is necessarily overhyped. He's pretty good. At the end of the season, would anybody be surprised that Connor Bedard was top 40 point producer? I don't think so. So I don't have a real issue with it that much at all. You look at the rankings, and there's always going to be some that, maybe go, I don't know. So, yeah, I don't really have much of an issue with it.
Yep. Those of you who are old enough, and I was 14, to see Eric Lindros start at the 1991 Canada Cup before one NHL game played. Not only was he good, he was one of the best players on the team. Now, that was more physical than anything. He scored some big goals. Is Connor Bedard Eric Lindros? No, but he's, let's say, of the generational players that have come along in the last bunch of years, let's say Sidney Crosby and Connor McDavid, I suppose. Before that, it would have been Lindros. Different players, but I have every bit of confidence in Bedard as I did those guys coming in as high-level prospects that they are. And my only question with it is that he's not ranked higher. I thought he would be ranked higher than 48.
All right.
Question number 3, MLB wildcard round gets going tomorrow. Which do you think will be the best in terms of entertainment value?
For me, oh God, this was tough because you said entertainment value. So I think I'm going to go with Rangers, Tampa. No, I'm going to go with the Jays. The Jays, obviously, but I mean, I guess trying to get outside of that vacuum. First of all, I see both teams play a lot. And I know the Rangers are like the Jays. They could get 15 runs or they could score none. Like, it's a crapshoot. Tampa has incredible pitching, and I think the Rangers have almost equally as good hitting. So it should be a series with great players that kind of contrast each other. So I'm looking forward to that one.
It's a good question because entertainment value, it's more so, okay, to me, is there going to be a lot of stolen bases now? There's stolen bases are up. The rookie Corbin Carroll, man, that guy in Arizona has been worth his price of admission for a lot of games. So I'm going to say Arizona and Milwaukee strictly from an entertainment standpoint. I think we're going to see, a lot of activity on the base paths, and maybe that's old school for me. I grew up watching, the Cardinals, and there's tons of stolen bases. Ricky Henderson. I kind of like that excited. All of a sudden it puts pressure on the pitcher. Now you got guys moving, and all of a sudden, hit and runs are a little bit more in play. So I'm going to go Arizona, Milwaukee.
Listen, I have a question just because we're on baseball. I don't want to waste your time, but 1 second. You just mentioned that and the rules and everything. Do you think the rules will be called the same, or will there be more lenience?
Oh, they got to. I don't see how you could change the pitching clock's got to be the same. Obviously, the base sizes and the shift. Like it's impossible not to call it. So no, I don't see.
I mean, at the plate.
Oh,
sometimes
wow.
Sometimes a guy comes in and it's like vague. When he's stepping into the box.
Okay.
Or pitcher, batter, whatever. I mean, the other stuff is very black and white, but that's not.
Yeah, wow. That's every year, right? Like I look at those pitches, and I know we see it on TV sitting at home, and you're like, oh, that one was just outside the square. I can't believe you missed it. Like, It's a 98-mile-an-hour fastball that he misses by like a third of a centimeter. Oh, my God, what a loser. Like, I always kind of chuckle at people like that make it act like this is such a simple thing to see in real time. Like, I think for the most part, like, they get it right. Like Angel Hernandez, if he's not umping, then I think shouldn't be an issue. He's fairly questionable.
Question number 4. Before we get to that, though, per our statistician Declan Kruger, McDavid, 37 on the list back in 2015.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. Okay, question number 4. Sad news over the weekend, CFL legend George Reed passing away. So I want to ask you guys this. Outside of quarterbacks, who do you think is the greatest CFLer of all time?
That is a really good question, Cons. It's really hard not to go with George Reed when you take out quarterbacks, right? So I'm going to go, I'll give 2, and I don't want to steal an answer. I'm going to say George Reed, Milt Stegall.
Okay, I'm going to go now. Again, not that I know much about the CFL, but I know players that kind of transcended the game, and I'm a sports fan, so I saw highlights. And I don't want to be too far off base here. I don't know where this guy lands, but Mike Pringle.
Oh yeah, he'd be right up there.
I mean, just judging on what I hear, the highlights I see, the way other players talk about him, the talent he had running. I don't know. That's what I'll go with.
Final question for you guys. Since we had Thomas Nicholas on the show, star of Rookie of the Year and American Pie, what is the best sports movie, but I'm going to say in the kids demographic, movies that are designed for kids?
Go ahead, TR.
Designed for kids. Okay, so I'm going to stay away from like movies like Field of Dreams.
Any Given Sunday.
Rudy that kids can watch.
Yeah.
They might be PG-13, but they're not made for kids. So the simple answer for me, made for kids. And I don't know that there's anything close to these two, but in my world, Karate Kid and Bend It Like Beckham.
Ooh, Bend It Like Beckham. I love The Sandlot. I thought it was a fantastic show. So I'm going with The Sandlot, followed closely by, just because it's a kid movie, The Mighty Ducks. Connor?
Not bad picks.
Yeah, Mighty Ducks is a classic. Space Jam's up there, but I'm going to say Cool Runnings.
Oh,
nice.
The ultimate underdog story.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, there's a
That's
classic.
A good off the grid, but a nice pick. I like it.
Nice. I like it a lot. TR, thanks for sticking with us. We'll get everything sorted out professionally and properly by Thursday. Have yourself a good week. Now, will you be rewatching Shoresy this week now that you've seen it all? Like, do you stay now? I'll watch episode 2 once a week, or are you done?
I've gathered it now. I've absorbed it. I'm happy with that. And the only other time now I'll watch it for a long, I might revisit it in months to come. But my daughter, it sounds crazy content, but she's 13. She knows I'm in a show that has some adult content. We'll watch each night, like I said, for a half hour. We watch either Seinfeld or a bit of an old movie or a documentary or something, and that'll just take that place. So over the next few weeks, I'll watch with her, and that'll be it.
Okay. Now, do you fast forward certain scenes that are coming? Or do you be expected to say earmuffs? Earmuffs.
Yeah. Yeah. I know if she was any younger, but that's it. She plays on the under 15 girls team with the older girls.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. So,
there's a talk. It's hard to get away from pretty much anything, these days.
Yeah.
What are we talking? Violence? What, we're really talking about the drugs and the sex for me. And if you're 13, and there's not a lot of drugs in there. And
yeah.
Sex. It's humorous. It's not like I'm showing her Schindler's List where she'd have to absorb something that probably her brain wouldn't be able to comfortably grasp. It's just all a little bit crude and over the top, but it's tongue in cheek, funny, and she loves it. So it's no problem with me.
Oh, there you go. TR, have a good one. We'll talk to you Thursday.
Thanks a lot for having me again, guys. Have a great evening.
It's Terry Ryan, our regular Monday and Thursday co-host from 3 until 5 o'clock. Check out his podcast, Tales with TR. It's quite funny. Let's get to sports update brought to you by Edmonton Kubota. Stop in right now at EK and you can get 0% financing for 84 months on any of their compact BX tractors. Shop online, EdmontonKubota.com.
This is a Sports 1440 update.
Game day, the Oilers in action tonight down in Seattle taking on the Kraken as the preseason rolls on. This one gets going just after 8 o'clock. One game underway already. Sens lead the Penguins 2-0 after 20. Still to come tonight, the Flyers take on the Bruins, Islanders in Jersey, Blue Jackets up against the Blues, Canadians in Toronto, then the Flames take on the Winnipeg Jets. Off the ice, the Anaheim Ducks have signed restricted free agent Trevor Zegras to a 3-year, $17.25 million contract extension. Zegras recorded a career-high 23 goals and 65 points in 81 games last season. Week 4 in the NFL wraps up tonight as the Seahawks host the Giants. Kickoff 6:15. You can join me at the Windermere Canadian Brewhouse for your chance to qualify for a trip for 2 to the Super Bowl in Las Vegas. And tough news for the Bills as they'll be without starting cornerback Tre'Davious White for the remainder of the season, who suffered a torn Achilles in their victory over the Dolphins on Sunday. Sad news, one of the best running backs to ever play in the CFL, George Reed, passed away at the age of 83. The CFL Hall of Famer played 13 seasons with the Rough Riders and was named MVP in the club's first Grey Cup win in 1966. Coming up in Hour 4 of the Jason Gregor Show, we'll be joined by Mark Spector of Rogers Sportsnet, and we'll talk a little fantasy football with Andy McNamara. I'm Connor Halley. This has been a Sports 1440 update.
Sports 1440 in West Edmonton Mall and Wetaskiwin.
Brought to you by BIE Engineering, your structural engineering specialist. Whether you're in the process of a renovation or building your dream home, BIE can help you out. Go to BIEENG.com.
Sports Radio is back. The Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440.
Presented by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website.
Welcome back. Just after 5 o'clock on a Monday game day, Oilers in Seattle to take on the Kraken. Jack Campbell looking to build off a solid performance on Friday night in Calgary. Picked up the win 2-1. Brad Malone was the OT winner that night. He's in the lineup tonight. Also, you'll see Derek Ryan centering. Tonight is an opportunity for him because who knows if Raphael Lavoie wins the job, then they're going to move Derek Ryan to center. He's going to center Janmark and Holloway. McDavid's with Draisaitl and Hyman. Hamlin's with Ernie and Lavoie. And then, of course, Kulak and Cece, Gleason, Broberg, Deneen, and Kemp. Gregor Show, as always, presented by PlayAlberta.ca. Alberta's only regulated online gambling website. Feel free to get involved. We've got a lot of texts flying in at 833-401-1440. It's where you can send us your thoughts. And it's time now for the Spec Report, brought to you by GS Construction. We're always looking for good people. And guess what? They are hiring right now, gearing up for the fall push. If you're looking for a good gig with great benefits at a great company, go to Indeed.com and look up GS Construction. As we welcome in to the program from Rogers Sportsnet, Mark Spector. Spec, how are you, my man? He's not there. So we'll figure out. No, there he is. Spec, how are you?
I'm doing okay. How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. Oilers split the weekend. Calgary win there, lose in Vancouver. I guess the bigger story really is Brandon Sutter, and you had tweeted it out that this was not a lack of talent. This was just he had a meeting after that game with Ken Holland and Jay Woodcroft, and just decided that obviously maybe his health isn't where it wants to be, and he's going to retire.
Yeah. No one, I texted Brandon today, didn't get back to me. Ken Holland didn't really want to speak for him when I spoke to Ken today. But it's pretty clear here that, he didn't get injured playing hockey. He gave this thing a run. He felt good enough to play. And obviously at some point here, I thought, I wasn't sure. He played in that Vancouver game. I thought he looked a little sluggish. I thought, oh, well, just one game. And it appears to me that he felt even worse, because the next day he called a meeting with Woodcroft and Holland and trainer TD Force and just called her quits. So I can't do this. It's not working. So we're going to assume until someone tells us different that the long COVID that he's fought for 2 years, he still hasn't quite shaken it enough to be a professional athlete, Jason.
Yeah, and that's really too bad, right?
It is.
Because in the games that he played, I thought he looked fine. He didn't stand out, but he didn't stand out negatively either. So, you know what? Hopefully he's got a little peace of mind to say, hey, I gave it my best. And for whatever reason, my immune system's just not going to be back to the level to be a professional athlete, which is disappointing. But thankfully, he's got a healthy, the rest of his part, hopefully he's healthy, can be a good father and wife, a husband, and kind of go from there. And so now it's, Lane Peterson, Brad Malone, Raphael Lavoie, Adam Ernie, are the guys left, Spec. And, there's lots of people on the text line that are like, it's got to be Lavoie. It's got to be Lavoie. And he's the shiny new toy that no one's seen in the regular season. The one thing, and I have no problem if Raphael Lavoie makes a team. My issue is how people think that Raphael Lavoie is some stud that deserves, to be treated with kid gloves and has to play with McDavid or Draisaitl to get a chance. Well, I actually disagree with any suggestion he should play with McDavid or Draisaitl, because he knows he has to play a certain way to be in the bottom six. So don't have him play that way and then say, oh, now we're going to play you a game with McDavid and Draisaitl. We have to play a completely different fashion. It doesn't put him in a position to succeed.
Jason, this is the thing that I think fans do, and I get it. I get it. They have a player they want. I remember other first-round picks who showed up, and immediately they should get a shot with the very best player. Why wasn't Yakupov on Taylor Hall's line the minute he showed up? And why didn't Jesse Puljujarvi play more with McDavid and Draisaitl sooner than he did? And that's the way it goes. Lavoie should play with McDavid. Sure. He's not playing with McDavid during the regular season. I'm not sure what point there would be in putting him with McDavid or Draisaitl in the preseason. I want to say to you that I suppose it slots in that Derek Ryan would go to your fourth line center, and then that leaves room for Lavoie on right wing. I don't see him as a fourth line right winger, but I respect the fact that he sees that that's probably how he's going to have to make this team. But does that solve Edmonton's issues at fourth line center? I mean, there's a reason they brought Brandon Sutter in here, Jason, because they'd signed Derek Ryan to a 2-year deal. And I mean, I like Derek Ryan, and I like him even more at $950 or whatever he signed for. But I don't think that the Edmonton Oilers see him as their fourth line center in a championship lineup. So you can bring Lavoie in to play right wing and do all those things, but the fourth line center problem still exists, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that's fair, right? Now, Derek Ryan has played center, but he hasn't really played center here in 2 years, right? And that's the issue. So, now in a year where you feel like you're a cup contender, you're going to move a guy to a position that, yes, he's played there before, but he hasn't really played there in 2 years. So if it's because you think Lavoie is good enough and you're like, we don't want to lose him, so we'll solve the problem down the road, makes perfect sense to me. But I wouldn't move Derek Ryan to center if I don't think Raphael Lavoie is better than the other guys. That's how I would look at it.
Well, wait a second. Hold on. We're not talking about Raphael Lavoie as a centerman here, are we?
No. I said, because
Okay.
the only way Derek Ryan's playing center is if Raphael Lavoie is on the team, right? Otherwise, he'll be the right winger. So my point is, unless Raphael Lavoie is clear-cut better, I can understand where the team says, well, geez, if Lane Peterson or Brad Malone are way better than Derek Ryan as our fourth-line center, then we do that. Now, here's the wild card. Maybe they keep Malone and Lavoie, and they're going to wave like a Derek Ryan, which I highly doubt, but you know what I mean, Spec? Like, the fourth-line center position is fairly important.
It's really important, especially when, like, what we, listen, let me say something here. I've been on your show 10 times telling you that Brandon Sutter makes this team if he stays healthy, right? Ken Holland said early in camp, if he's anything like the 30-year-old Brandon Sutter, he's exactly what we need. And I stand by that. If he was healthy, he'd make the team. We wouldn't be having this conversation. He's not healthy and he retired. So now it's time to get to plan B. But plan B is difficult because, you had a big right-handed centerman, 6'3", a guy that could really kill penalties. Brandon Sutter's an excellent penalty killer. He could take some huge end-of-game draws or 5-on-3 draws that right now Leon Draisaitl has to take. I think you'd like to take some of those draws and some of that ice time away from Leon if you could. And now I don't think Derek Ryan is that guy. Derek Ryan, if it's a 5-on-3, are you going to put out Derek Ryan to take the big draw? You're going to put out Draisaitl. Well, you're probably putting out Draisaitl, so you're still looking for the guy that Brandon Sutter was going to be. You can keep Draisaitl, you can keep Lavoie. Ryan. You can keep Lavoie, but you haven't fixed your issue at fourth line center, and it's a problem that they're going to take into the season.
Which is okay, right? I don't think like the team you have in October doesn't have to be the team you have at the trade deadline, right? So they've got some time to work it out, and you know what? Hey, if they don't want to lose Raphael Lavoie, no problem. Here's the other thing: no one knows for sure that a team's claiming Lavoie. They might not. Every year, there's guys in every market that people think, oh, someone's going to claim him, and then no one does. So I don't know, but I want to see Lavoie. I thought like Lavoie played okay in his first game. I thought in the second half of the Vancouver game, he came on a bit, obviously scored. And I know it was a 5-2 goal, but who cares? To me, he scored. He used the skill set that he's known for. I'm really curious to see how he plays tonight because he's on a line with two guys in Hamblin, who's got an outside chance, and Adam Ernie to be on that fourth line. So this is a bunch of guys that are going to battle it out for one spot.
Well, it is. And you know what? That's good. Right? And I'm just moving something here. Sorry. I want to say to you, too, before we move on, just stirring supper a little bit, Jason. Holy man, you can't let it burn while you're trying to do an interview here. I want to say there's a whole bunch of teams that are looking for a first-line center or a second-line center, right? The Edmonton Oilers' biggest problem here is they don't have the right fourth-line center. That's not that big a deal. Like, have some perspective. I can remember the days when Craig McTavish said, we have one centerman. Isn't that what he said that time? Didn't he say we have one centerman on our team? Or did he say we have zero centermen on our team? I can't remember what he said. But the point is, the Oilers are very good up the middle. So as for Lavoie, I don't know. I'm going to ask you this. I'm not sure how well he skates to start. And I want to say this. Guys who score in the minors, but I don't know how well he skates. When they get to the big leagues, when they get to the NHL, that skating inhibits them from getting those same scoring chances, and they don't score. So I want to see, he had a nice snipe the other night in Vancouver for sure. I want to see how many scoring chances Lavoie gets as we get into NHL lineups, Jason, because I want to see how well he keeps up. Is that fair?
Sure. Yeah, I think that's fair. Right. And I think this week we will see that, right? Because, tonight Seattle's got their top two lines going. They got, a 4 or 5 NHL defensemen going. So, and then I think Calgary, Lavoie will play against possibly, and then they're going to have a decent lineup. So, it's good. These final few games, they're not the same, but at least they're closer. And that's fair, right? You can move it around. I've seen the movie over and over of people that overhype prospects across the NHL. And it's just like, hey, if there's nothing wrong with like, and the other thing that irks me more than anything is, oh, Rafael Lavoie's playing with a bunch of plugs. I'm like, hey, Adam Ernie, you might not like him. He's played 335 NHL games. Rafael Lavoie's played 0. Okay. Brad Malone's played NHL games. James Hamlin's played NHL games, for goodness sakes. So, you know what? Rafael Lavoie, hey, maybe he'll have a 1,000-game career. I really hope he does. But you don't have to insult other players because you suggest you think this guy is just the do-all, end-all.
I totally agree. We've seen it in every city with every team's prospects. It's time for Lavoie. Like, I think this is fair. I think Broberg's the same guy. It's time to expect an NHL player at some point here out of these two young players. They're both good, and I don't think we're pushing them too hard. But I think what you got to do, and you're good at this, Jay, you got to talk to people from other organizations. What does the guy who worked for Anaheim think of Lavoie? What's the guy that worked for Montreal think of Lavoie? Right?
Yeah.
Phone around to some scouts on other teams, and you often don't get, in fact, you almost never get the same description of that player that you get when you're talking to fans of that team, because fans they're invested, right? They watched the Oilers draft Lavoie. They've watched him come through. They watched him score 25 in the AHL. They're invested. Talk to people who aren't invested, and that's where you really get the assessment you're looking for.
Yeah, because they're not emotionally invested, is what you're saying, right? Like they're
not emotionally invested.
Totally fair. You look at, the other, people are saying, hey, why would you play McDavid with Draisaitl? Doesn't make any sense. Well, it does make sense because they played Kane, Nugent Hopkins, and Brown last game, and they're not going to overplay anybody in the preseason. And even though they're going to start the season on their own lines, we know that at some point, whether it's a period, whether it's a shift, maybe it's even a game, David and Draisaitl are going to play some games together in an 82-game season. It's just they love doing it. It's never a problem for your team. You know what? Especially if you've got Nugent Hopkins and Kane and Hyman or whoever, Brown, you want to put in your second line. It's a pretty decent second line. So I don't mind that spec, but Jay Woodcroft is kind of like he's coming to camp here, and top 6 guys have played with top 6 guys. Bottom 6 guys have played with bottom 6 guys. And I think it's kind of like, guys, this is your role. That's what you're going to be. So play to your role regardless of which bottom 6 guy you're playing with.
Well, that's like, I think we go back to Lavoie. If he has to make this team on the 4th line, frankly, I'd like to see him play with Janmark and Ryan, because that's that's the kind of line he might start a season with. We see Holloway's, I think Holloway's playing with Ryan and Janmark tonight.
Yes.
I think Holloway is a 3rd line player. I see him playing next to McLeod, but there's no McLeod yet. So listen, it's preseason. I'm not, it's only lines in preseason. It's a little bit of an individual game at this time of year. I want to see how guys do more than I want to see how lines do.
Yeah, fair enough. And are you getting at all concerned that there hasn't been an Ekholm or McLeod sighting? Do you think either one might not be? Now, I was told last Thursday that they're expecting to play 1 or 2 preseason games, which means they could play Wednesday or Friday. But is it at all remotely concerned for you that Ekholm has yet to skate in preseason?
Yeah, you know what? I saw McLeod up in the press box the other night, and he's walking around looking fine. He's a younger player. They say he's closer. They expect him to play. He went on this road trip. So did Ekholm. They thought he might play tonight, McLeod. So, you know what? Like, I guess I'll tell you this. If anyone was ever honest with us when it came to injuries, Jason, I wouldn't be nervous about these guys. But when the Oilers, and not just the Oilers, every team in professional sports, when they say, oh, don't worry about this guy, it's only a couple of games, you can't believe them because they never tell you the truth. So I don't know how hurt Ekholm is. I assume that Jay Woodcroft's telling us the truth, but sometimes day to day turns into week to week, turns into month to month, and you never really get a reason why, do you?
No. And no, it's not ideal. So I don't think it's a major issue. Ekholm himself was the one who came out and said, hey, I don't think this is that serious. So maybe he would know. And he's been around, and maybe it's just a veteran move, and he's not having to go through the rigmaroles of training camp. But I do think if he doesn't get into a preseason game, you're starting behind the 8 ball. I don't care how veteran you are. They all admit that they like to play a few games to just knock off the rust.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, I get it with Ekholm. He's too important a player. If he misses preseason, even if he misses a couple games, if that's what it takes, you need him healthy for the whole season, not for the start of the season, right? And you know what? McLeod's young. It doesn't sound like he's hurt that bad. Let's hope he's not. But they say he's going to get a preseason game. Let's hope he does.
Spec, enjoy the game tonight. We'll chat with you tomorrow.
All right. Thanks, Jake.
That's Mark Spector and the Spec Report brought to you by GS Construction. Are you concerned at all? To me, and if he's in the lineup next Wednesday, not a big deal. Even if he doesn't play the 2 preseason games. It's not ideal, but it's not a big deal, if that makes any sense. I think both can happen at the same time. Not ideal, but it's not a major cause for concern. You know what? I think but the other question is then, would you start the season? Ekholm hasn't played. Do you start him with Broberg or Desharnais? And if you do, are they almost your quasi third minutes for a few games? That to me is the more interesting one, is how do you deploy your defense if he hasn't played one preseason game? Some interesting questions. 833-401-1440. Here's a fun statistic, because you know I love the stats. Last season, 72 different quarterbacks started a game in the NFL. 72. So that's 2 per team, and then 1 on basically a third of the teams. A third stringer on third of the teams. They started 141 games. It's kind of interesting how some teams put zero stock in having a backup. And their backup's fairly important considering how many games that they will start. We're going to talk about that, the correlation to goaltending, and more next on the Jason Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca.
For a limited time at McDonald's, enjoy the tasty breakfast trio. Your choice of sausage or chicken McMuffin or McGriddles with a hash brown and a small premium roast coffee for $5 plus tax. Available before 11 a.m. at participating McDonald's restaurants in Canada.
Ain't it beautiful? What does excellence mean to you, and how does it impact your decisions? Friends, it's Carrie Dahl, and I know that at Volvo Cars Edmonton, excellence isn't an option, it's their everything. From customer satisfaction in sales, service, inventory, and retention, they excel in all. Congratulations, Volvo Cars Edmonton, Canada's only 12-time Volvo Excellence Award winners.
Volvo of Edmonton.
A premier hockey solution with a clear path for long-term development is proud to be entering its 7th season of independent borderless hockey, featuring provincial and cross-province competition with showcase style, regular season gameplay, and a strong commitment to individual skill development. It's an attractive option for those seeking family life balance. The Hockey Super League offers opportunities for both male and female athletes, born between 2011 and 2016. Visit hockeysuperleague.com for more information.
At The Brick, we're not just proud of this city and its rich sports history. We're proud partners of it. The Brick started right here in Edmonton over 50 years ago. And when we're not cheering on the Oilers and Oil Kings live at the game, or the Edmonton Elks under the bright stadium lights, we're in our stores, providing everything you need to cheer them on in your home. The Brick, supporting Edmonton sports teams and fans since 1971, saving you more.
The job isn't done until the last load is hauled, and having the semi-trailer out of commission is not an option. Whether replacing or adding to your convoy, Edmonton Trailer has a huge inventory of new and used semi-trailers, trusted by the gravel, logging, oil field, fluids, and freight industries. Find a trailer right for you online or at one of their 3 locations. For sales, service, parts, rental, and finance, when you're in it for the long haul, Edmonton Trailer.
You know, I got into reffing for the excitement.
He's going for the chair!
Turns out wrestling is completely scripted. But you know what's exciting and unscripted? PlayAlberta.ca. With an all-new sportsbook, odds boosts, and betting on any game.
PlayAlberta.ca. Go all in on excitement. Sign up today with promo code SPORTS50 and get a $50 free bet. Official gaming partner of the Edmonton Oilers. Remember, if you gamble, use your game sense.
Hi, Dennis from Weiss Johnson. Are you one of those people out there looking for something different to heat and cool your home? Weiss Johnson is Edmonton's cold climate heat pump specialist and would love to explain to you how Trane heat pumps are a reliable, cost-effective alternative for your home's heating and cooling needs. Order your Trane heat pump now and take advantage of the generous government rebates that are available. Trane, it's hard to stop with Trane. Call the most experienced HVAC company around with over 45 years in business. Visit wjcools.com today.
Nearly 400,000 Canadians are fighting an invisible battle every day. Type 1 diabetes is a lifelong journey with no cure. Many are diagnosed as children or young adults. Do your part in learning the symptoms of diabetes, as uncontrolled blood sugar can lead to serious health problems, including heart disease, vision loss, or even death. Early detection is key to fighting and managing type 1 diabetes. Do your part. Help Diabetes Canada to turn type 1 into type none. Visit diabetes.ca for more info.
Portions of this hour brought to you by Crystal Glass, the clear choice for all your auto, residential, and commercial glass needs. Call 310 Glass or book now at crystalglass.ca.
Sports Radio is back. The Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440.
Presented by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website.
$5:27. How are you? Monday edition of the Jason Gregor Show. Oh, I can't wait. This time next week, we'll be on the eve of the NHL regular season. Like, thankfully, it's the end of preseason week, man. Like, it's just, come on. Now, I know there's lots on the line for lots of bubble players. It's going to be a really stressful week. So I'm very much understanding that for the players. No question about it. There's going to be some players who, for a brief time, their dream of being in the NHL gets put on hold. And that's disappointing. And so you definitely feel for those. But at the same time, there's lots of excitement. Some players will get that call for the first time that, hey, you've made the team. Pretty exciting. Be lots of players next week playing their first ever NHL game. Obviously, quite the thrill. So should be fun. But it's, I can tell you selfishly, I am ready for the regular season. Bring it on. Bring it on. Oilers have 3 games this week tonight in Seattle. Wednesday and Friday on home ice against Calgary and Seattle. Campbell plays tonight, which would be his second start. Skinner has already started twice. There's 2 games left. I'm no mathematician, but I think there's a good chance they both might start one more game each. Skinner goes Wednesday. Campbell goes Friday. Then Skinner likely goes next Wednesday. Now, maybe they look and say, well, let's go Campbell Wednesday, Skinner on Friday. And then I'm curious if, let's say Skinner, well, I assume Skinner's going to start the season opener. If he wins, do you play him again? But if Campbell plays really well in all of his preseason games, do you want him to sit out that long, or do you want him to go in game 2 against Vancouver? So be some early season decisions for the head coach. Let's get to the fantasy report now, brought to you by Next Gen Transportation. Heavy haul transport provider, 100% locally owned and operated, and proud supporter of My Shack group of companies. They're also hiring. Go to nextgentransportation.com as we are joined by a gentleman who regular season wasn't very kind to him yesterday. It was a tough day as a fan of the Cleveland Browns. Andi McNamara joins us once again. Andy, good afternoon, my man. How you doing?
I'm doing good, brother. Unlike my Browns, I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, that was it was not ideal. Of course, Andi McNamara from the Sick Podcast. We were talking about, and I brought up the stat about starting quarterbacks and how last year there were 72 different guys who started a game in the NFL. 72. That's like 2 for every team, and then another, basically 1/3 of the other teams. And they started 141 games last year. Like, the Browns went to their backup, Andy, and he totally looked overwhelmed. Like, Watson on the sideline almost looked like a father who was protective of his kid because he wasn't ready. Like, does it surprise you that some teams don't put more into their backup? Because odds will tell you you're going to need him in a few starts in the season.
No, it's a great point. And I'll tell you, I was in Cleveland, thank goodness not this past weekend, the weekend before, when the Browns put the boots to the Titans. That was fun. Yesterday, not so much. But here's the problem where you get into when you guarantee $230 million to your quarterback and you get into those big contracts. Unfortunately, you see for a lot of these teams, you look to the backup and it's like, who the bleep is this guy? Because they can't. All the money's tied up in the franchise quarterback, right? So that's where they have to make cuts somewhere. And I'm with you. I would try to trim maybe, I don't know, a third running back or fourth safety or something rather than skimp on the backup QB, because Dorian Thompson-Robinson looked great in preseason, and he looked every bit a fifth-round rookie against that Baltimore defense.
Well, and you know what? Quarterback issues in that division. What about Pickett now? He's got the bone bruise. Looks like he could miss some time. And, Pittsburgh and Cincy, like at the start of the year, a lot of people thought this might be one of the best divisions in football.
Yeah.
It's starting to shape up to suddenly being one of the worst.
Well, it's funny. It was the same conversation with the AFC West last year. Remember, it's like Russell Wilson there. It's going to be 50 burgers all over. And it was awful. With some injuries here, you're right. And here's to your point of a decent backup who's won games is Mitch Trubisky. That's a good backup. That is I could argue the way Kenny Pickett's been playing, which has been hot garbage, Mitch Trubisky gives you a better chance to win if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. The guy's come in, he's won games, and I think it actually might be, at least short-term, a bit of an upgrade.
Very valid, right? It could be for sure. So when you look at like certain teams, I know we're talking fantasy a bit, and it definitely correlates to reality, but the Cincinnati Bengals, like Jamar Chase for a few years now, I think he's only got one catch of over 20 yards the last year. Like, what's happened to this guy? What's gone? Is it the O-line is so bad they can't get the ball deep, or what's gone wrong in Cincy with their offense?
I'll tell you this, and I watched this team very closely. Browns played them week 1, so at the AFC North, I kind of have the Hawkeyes on, and the problem is nothing to do with Jamar Chase, not even the offensive line so much. It's that calf of Joe Burrow that he hurt in training camp never healed. And as we know, pick your sport. You get those soft tissue injuries, and in season, that's not getting better. You're not playing through that. This thing is going to haunt Joe Burrow the entire year. It's not, like a bone bruise, or not that that's minor, but you know what I mean, right? If it's a strained, that soft muscle, because guess what? If you're a quarterback, guess what you're using? Your legs. You're pushing off of the calf, and that is not going to get better for Joe Burrow. And you're seeing also he's having some treatment on his knee around that as well, because you're not walking right. That affects the knee. He had knee, it kind of snowballs, and you saw some frustration coming up from Jamar Chase saying like, hey, I'm always open. And it's Joe Burrow can't get the power, can't get the thinking about the leg. And so all of a sudden, the Bengals, who were almost the gimme division winners in the AFC North, picked by everybody, myself included, boy, 1-3. Yeesh, not good.
No, not good at all. As Andy McNamara joins us. There are some, what about the Houston Texans, CJ Stroud, man? Like, I don't know how many people have this guy, but look at him and look at his receivers. Like, that's got to be the biggest surprise in fantasy football is the Houston quarterback and receivers early on.
You know what? If it's the only surprise that might be bigger is Puka Nacua of the Rams, who came out of nowhere to lead every pass catching category in football. But you look at the Houston Texans, the roster is terrible. This is a bad team, but you have the rookie quarterback come in out of Ohio State. And it's interesting to see the comparisons, because Justin Fields was the quarterback right before CJ Stroud in Ohio State came out. We know his troubles with Chicago. CJ Stroud comes out, who I thought was going to be more pro ready than Fields was. And it looks like he is. Like, what's the biggest takeaway we look at? It's the turnovers, and there's none. And you're making a star out of rookie Tank Dell. You're talking about fantasy football stacks where you have a couple players from the same team on it. The biggest surprise that nobody would have said, hey, I'll take Tank Dell and CJ Stroud. And they're rocking it, man. They're doing great.
No, CJ Stroud, man, has been fantastic. He's looked really good. All of a sudden, Mr. Wilson, now I know it's only one game, but the second, third, and fourth quarters, Zach Wilson for the Jets, you're like, hey, there's a backup quarterback this year. He might be onto something.
You know what? I think Zach Wilson with that game may have put enough on tape to be a backup quarterback somewhere after this year for the rest of his career. Somewhere, maybe float around a little bit. I just can't buy it, man. I've seen too much Zach Wilson. Okay, look, he stepped up. And good on the Jets, because, boy, the money line was like 8.5, or the spread was 8.5. You could buy the alternate spread that the Chiefs were going to win by I would have taken 14 if I last night, for real, like before. And the Jets hung in. The defense is solid. And Zach Wilson played the game of his life, and he still lost. But you look at it, what does this mean? Is this the turning point for Zach Wilson? I would bet a lot that the answer is no. I think we're going to see Zach Wilson, who rose to the occasion against a primetime opponent, Taylor Swift in the audience. Maybe he's trying to impress Taylor. And, it's going to go back to normal. Zach Wilson is not, in my opinion, a quality at all starting quarterback in the NFL. I don't think he's going to be, and a fringe backup at the end of the day.
The Bears had an unreal start, and Justin Fields had probably his best passing game of his career, but they lost to Denver. The Bears, people thought the Bears would, have some semblance of improvement, and they haven't. And I'm not sure you can say the Broncos have because they beat the Bears. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't. John Gruden not John Gruden, excuse me. But in Denver,
Sean Payton,
Sean Payton, the magic of New Orleans is not rubbing off into Denver, is what I'm seeing.
No, you know what? Does this not, and this jumped to mind, the bad start and kind of the bluster and the pomp and circumstances of them coming in. Does this not look similar to, remember when Mike Ditka went to the Saints after that time up with the Bears, and it was, he trades everyone for Ricky Williams and he's going to go. And then it was a total disaster. Yeah. And that's what we're seeing. The question was, is Russell Wilson done? Can Peyton fix him? Well, he looked good enough. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions yesterday, but clearly there's something off there. And you're right, for Justin Fields, if you're a Bears fan, you have to hope this. All right, you're 0-4, but your quarterback threw for over 300 yards, 4 touchdowns. Did throw a pick, but looked good, ran for another 25. That can be a building block. At this point with the Bears, you have to say, okay, can we stack good performances and then see what happens? But the interesting thing is, if you're Chicago, and you're the front office, and we know players and coaches do not care about draft picks because you'll draft someone who will replace you. They're going to be trying the whole year. But if you're the front office, you got to be thinking, if the draft was before Sunday, the Bears would have had the first 2 picks in the draft because they have the Carolina Panthers first-round pick. You can get whatever quarterback you want. It doesn't have to be Justin Fields. Whatever hot shot guy's coming out next year, swing again and see what happens.
And then be smart enough to have him as a backup for a year.
Oh God.
That's the key.
Right?
Don't rush him. Just let him learn from Fields, and maybe you can learn what not to do. You know what?
What not to do. Yeah.
Seriously.
Just watch that. Don't criticize coaches and don't turn the ball over 4 times. Got it.
Yeah. Andi McNamara joins us on the Sick Podcast. Andy, one last one. Washington and Philly, quite the game. Jake Elliott, what a boot, a 54-yarder to win it. But I look at the Commanders, and they're a competitive team, man. They're young quarterback. He really bounced back. I thought he had a solid performance. Are you a believer in the Commanders?
You know what? I am surprised at how game they are for both of those. And they're well coached. Ron Rivera is, depending how this thing shakes out, he's quite likely to be fired, I think. You got a new owner in. They want to make the splash, right? You get the gimme year. But they're fighting for him. They're playing for him. Long-term, and I don't believe in Sam Howell as a starting quarterback in the NFL for a good team. I think it's been great what he's been able to do so far, but I don't believe with his skill set, his size, he, to me, kind of falls in that category. We look back 3 years from now, it's like Sam Howell is a good backup. Like we were talking about off the top. Sam Howell will be a guy you'll want as your backup if your starter goes down. But is he going to be the franchise guy? I don't think so. But it's a division where I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but they're not going to be a cakewalk. I think the Commanders have at the very least put themselves in third ahead of what the New York Giants have been showing and are going to be a tough out.
Yeah, definitely. Andy, great stuff, my man. We really appreciate it. Thanks for your time. We'll talk to you again soon.
Oh, anytime. Talk to you soon. See ya.
It's Andi McNamara from the Sick Podcast, and NFL will be an interesting week. We'll get more on the Oilers lineup. You got a lot of questions, and people are the Raphael Lavoie train. It is full right now. He's the guy that many of you. He's your ride or die guy. He's your guy. You've jumped on board, Raphael. Will he live up to it? We'll find out next. The Jason Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca. You can text us in our Jiffy Lube inbox, 833-401-1440.
Legacy Heating and Cooling is the #1 place for people who want heating and cooling, because you'll save a bundle and get
Hawks, there's something going on every day at OTR. Tonight, Bingo Tunes, Taco Tuesday, karaoke on Wednesday, Salsa Night Thursday, and live music every weekend on the OTR stage with DJ Kenny K on the Rocks, Jasper Ave, and 118th.
Sports Radio is back. The Jason Gregor Show on Sports 1440.
Presented by PlayAlberta.ca, Alberta's only regulated online gambling website.
Welcome to a new kind of tension across the alien mission, where everything is meant to be okay. Television dreams of tomorrow. We're not the ones that meant to follow.
Getting set, of course, Oilers in Seattle tonight to take on the Kraken. Welcome back to the Gregor Show, presented by PlayAlberta.ca, live in the E-Well studio. That game... Now, I looked and I didn't see it. Now, maybe I missed it, Cons, but I don't see it on the NHL Center Ice package. So it's Oilers plus or bust tonight. I think that's how it is. So,
yeah, it looks like it is that way.
Mm-hmm. So, there you go, Oiler fans. So, if you want to stream it, you can go ahead. Check it out. Jack Campbell in goal. We got a lot of texts coming in at 10, 12, 60. Hey, Gregor, why not let people get reps with someone else in case of injury? And I don't mean Lavoie, but why are you so locked in and loaded with zero consideration for plan B? Give someone else some reps, just like they were doing with D partners. That one comes from Sam in Vancouver. Well, Sam, my man, but they're not really doing that with D partners. Nurse is playing with Bouchard and Cece's playing with Kulak. Ekholm's hurt. So now Broberg and Desharnais are switching around. Now, they played together once, but they really haven't done that with the D. They've set their, hey, these are the pairs we're going with. These are our top 6 we're going with. The Oilers want to be ready for the regular season. No offense. A rookie with no NHL experience is not priority number 1. And guess what? If there's an injury, Warren Fogle moves up. Dylan Holloway moves up. Not Raphael Lavoie doesn't come in, guys, and just jump over all these players. Like, I think many people just need to cool their boots on Raphael Lavoie. I hope he does incredibly well. But I've seen the movie time and time again, and you keep getting fooled by it. Also, go look at Vegas's 4th line. How many rookies were on it? What about Colorado when they won the Cup? How many rookies? It's hard to play that role. Consistent, accepting that your shift is just not to get scored on. If you get scored on, big bonus. You don't get scored on. Raphael Lavoie has always been a guy who's my job, I want to score. So it's going to be hard to check it out. So, but see how it goes. Hey, boys, you get a signal boost from Fox Edition. The audio is much clearer in North Edmonton. It's awesome from Brett with 1T. Actually, our transmitter went down today for a brief time, and who knows, maybe with the reboot, they scrubbed some of the calcium off of it. Maybe it worked. So we'll see. That's great if it did. It's outstanding. But if you get any static anywhere, and it does happen in some places, but I highly recommend, of course, you can watch it, stream it live on Oilers Nation YouTube. It's fantastic. But if you're in your vehicle and you just want the audio, then you can get it through the iHeartRadio app or Stingray app on your phone. It's free. It's easy. So check it out. Hey, guys, if the Oilers don't have a 4th line center, does it really matter? They can just go 11-7 from Douglas. Great point, Douglas. That is an excellent point. Right? Excellent point. So I think you're onto something. I'd be curious in the month of October, how many games are 11-7 and how many are 12-6? Is it going to be split? I think it's going to be 4 each. It might be. So again, like, I know that it's the only job up for grabs, so that's what makes it intriguing. And I don't want to downplay the importance of it, but to start the regular season, it's like the least of, it's not even in the top 10 concerns for me, to be honest. It isn't. Now, I look at the orders and say, hey, health, number 1. McLeod, Ekholm, where are they at? They say they're going to be ready. Well, I'll believe it when I see it. When I see them on the ice in a game, then I'll be like, okay, now they're ready to play. Until that, they're just hoping that they're ready to play. Number 2, goaltending. Can Jack Campbell bounce back? He doesn't have to be 916. Can he be 904 to 910? I think he can. But again, it's only one preseason game. Stuart Skinner. We heard from Kevin Woodley. If you missed it, I'd highly recommend getting that on the check out the podcast or go to jasongregor.com for the individual interviews. But he feels that Stuart Skinner, because he's not an overly aggressive goaltender, there's not a lot of movement in his game, that it's not like some really aggressive goalies teams figured out and they just pass around him. He doesn't feel that's in Skinner's game. Now, obviously, there'll be certain things. He talked about, he actually thinks, lots of guys go up high. He thinks if there's one place to watch that people might shoot more is just above the pad. So that's food for thought to Woodley follows the goaltending position a lot closer than most. So I would see how that goes. Hey, guys, if only they could have kept Bukestad at a lower number. It was a perfect fit from BD. Yeah. Bukestad was good, no question about it. But again, can you acquire a Nick Bukestad at the deadline? And I think that the Oilers are a competitive team. But they will have a few months to find out what they need. And, hey, maybe Lane Peterson plays great in a fourth-line center job. Maybe Derek plays great in a fourth-line center with Rafael Lavoie as fourth-line left winger. Great. And they look to focus somewhere else at the deadline. Right? Because I think this year's deadline, like last year, they got a forward and a defenseman. And I think if it's financially doable, they would look at doing that again. So, hey, boys, would you make Nugent Hopkins a third-line center if McLeod's not ready? Norman, a combine. Well, I noticed, look who Derek Ryan's playing with Holloway and Janmark. Right? I think Holloway's on your third line this year. And I think Fogle is too. So could Derek Ryan do it? Like if it's 1 or 2 games, 100%. If it ends up being a long-term thing for McLeod, which doesn't sound like today that it's supposed to be, but let's argue and hypothetically say you could. Yeah, you could move Nugent Hopkins. Then, of course, you would have, Fogle or Holloway up into your top 6. Right? And if McLeod, but here's the problem with Edmonton. The only way you can really move Nugent Hopkins to third-line center full-time if McLeod's not ready is if McLeod goes on LTIR. Because the Oilers are so tight against the cap, they can't put a player on IR. Because when you're on IR, you count against the cap. And if they do that, I shouldn't say they can't. They can do it with 1. But if they do it with 1 forward, then they got to go 11-7, or they have to send Broberg down and recall forward because Broberg doesn't require waivers. So keep that in mind. Right? Hey, Greg, there's no static in Westlock unless you're parked in front of the Home Hardware. From $1.75. Nice. Hey, what's going on in the hardware store there? I don't know. Conman, where can people find you tonight to watch the NFL game? And I know that they'll be trying to stream the Oilers game as well, I heard.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give it a go, right? I'll be at the Windermere location at the Canadian Brew House. We're going to be giving away an amazing meat package. The price of meats these days, Greg, are a couple steaks, burgers, all that sort of thing. It's going to skyrocket. So it's going to be worth a lot of money. That alone is worth coming down. Well, of course, we'll have Monday Night Football on. We're going to be qualifying 3 lucky people for a chance to win a trip for 2 to the Super Bowl in Las Vegas. On top of that, there's a trip to the home opener of your choice next season and a 70-inch TV. Lots of stuff going. Yeah, we're qualifying for everything down there. And I'll buy you a beer. I'll buy you a drink as well. So come on down to the Windermere Canadian Brew House on the south side.
Oh, geez, all the hoity-toities out in Windermere tonight, eh?
I'll be buying like martinis.
Exactly. I was just gonna say, buddy, you wearing suspenders and a blazer tonight?
Full tux.
Oh, full tux for the con man.
It's gonna
go old school. He's gonna gotta show up with a cummerbund. Oh, that would be awesome. Absolutely awesome. Monday nighter tonight. I will be. I need the third and Metcalf combined to score 23 points. Connor Halley in a full PPR league. What do you think?
I like your odds going up against the Giants. I
they
like
should
your
score
odds.
some. Like Ken Walker Jr.'s got to get a touchdown. Is he not tonight?
He does. He'll punch one in for sure. I did actually text Struddy to come out. Told him first Bud Light's on me.
Ooh.
Hasn't replied yet. So either he's forgot about me or he's a little nervous and doesn't want to leave the house for this one.
Yeah.
Both possible.
Hey, Greggs, I noticed your nephew scored again. What are your thoughts? Well, I did see the goal. Hey, Never bad to shoot. But I will say we're going to have the conversation. Very uninspired celebration. Very uninspired. Hey, I get this preseason. Can have at least a little bit of an arm race here. Come on. Haven't scored that many yet. No, I'm kidding, of course. Hey, you know what? Build confidence, man. Keep playing. Get an opportunity. It's good. So, God, I'm going to have to watch a lot of Leaf games this year. I'm not sure how I like about it, but obviously from an uncle standpoint, it'll be great. So, and they're on early. That's the greatest part about it. So I love it. On behalf of Connor Halley, I'm Jason Gregor. If you missed any part of the show, go to the podcast or jasongregor.com. Let's get to Sports 1440 update brought to you by Legacy Heating and Cooling, where the rates never change. No overtime charges. If your furnace conks out in the middle of the night, call Legacy. No extra charges. LegacyHeating.ca. Good night.
This is a Sports 1440 update.
Game day Oilers in action. Preseason action, that is, taking on the Seattle Kraken. Now it gets going just after 8 o'clock. Elsewhere on the NHL, Sens up on the Penguins 2-0 after 40 at the first intermission in the following games. Leafs lead the Canadiens 2-1. Blue Jackets up on the Blues 3-0. Devils trail the Islanders 2-1. And the Bruins have a 1-0 lead over the Flyers. Still to come tonight, the Jets taking on the Flames. Week 4 in the NFL wraps up tonight as the Seattle Seahawks host the New York Giants. Kickoff 6:15. You can join me at the Wintermere Canadian Brewhouse for your chance to qualify for a trip or two to the Super Bowl in Las Vegas. And sad news over the weekend is one of the best running backs to ever play in the CFL, George Reed, passing away at the age of 83. The Hall of Famer played in 13 seasons with the Rough Riders and was named MVP in the club's first Grey Cup win in 1966. His rushing touchdown record of 134 still stands today. We are off for the evening. Got Fox Sports Radio coming up at 9, and then Carius and Douglas at 7 a.m. I'm Connor Halley. This has been a Sports 1440 update.
This is Sports 1440, a Stingray radio station broadcasting on Treaty